Hey, sister.
Hey, sister. And you want us to do video content one day?
Loony befoonie.
Oh my God.
Why not?
Because I look like this.
Welcome to Sis Flicks, the podcast where we won't judge you for talking through the movie. Sis Flicks are the movies you laugh at, yearn for, and overanalyze with your girls, significant others, and now us.
We are your hosts,
Paola
and Nadhya, two sisters and designers who discuss chick flicks we hate to love,
tropes we love to hate,
and all of the aesthetic choices in between. Join us as we break down our favorite movies together.
Hey, sister.
Hey, sister.
Happy October.
Oh, Jesus Christ. We're not recording this in October, but it is coming out in October, and that is terrifying.
It is the 27th of September.
Dog.
It is October.
Welcome to the future, everyone. We're speaking to you from the past. You're in the future. I hope things are okay.
I thought you liked October.
I love October.
You loved October.
Yeah, I do.
So you're happy.
Why would you ever say that? When have I been happy a moment of my life? Oh my God.
So it's October and we are back to continue to cover our recap of Heartstopper season 1. We're recapping episodes 5 through 8. By now, for us in the future, we would have already seen season 3. I probably have already sobbed.
Yeah,
at
I
everything
probably
going on in season
binged
3
it in one day and then showed up to work the next day looking like a fucking zombie. If you guys are here with us, we are discussing part 2 of season 1 of Heartstopper. So we're doing kind of like a little Springerton Bridgerton style recap of the seasons of Heartstopper so far, seasons 1 and 2, ahead of finally getting into discussing season 3. So as Paola said, you're in the future. Heartstopper's already been released. Love that for you. Hope you've seen it and you love it. We haven't, and we're very, very excited to finally... Oh my God, the trailer's so good. Like, we're just pumped. If you are coming into this episode fresh, definitely listen to our previous episode, which is going to be Heartstopper Season 1, Episodes 1 through 4. Yeah, we're going to wrap up Season 1. And then we're going to dive into season motherfucking 2, baby.
Let's go. So a quick recap of what we covered in our first half. Our protagonist, 15-year-old Charlie, develops a crush on his classmate, Nick Nelson, and all of his friends fully believe that Nick Nelson is the straightest person they've ever seen. But Charlie starts getting some vibes from Nick that he might like him back. It turns out he does.
Cute.
However, Nick has never had feelings for a boy before. So we see him start through a journey of figuring out his sexuality while also carefully pursuing his feelings for Charlie. He likes being with Charlie, but it's not quite ready to come out publicly. And at this point of the season, there's such an important commentary about how society kind of pressures people, even teens, to identify their sexuality or have to be mislabeled by outsiders. Society doesn't seem to allow people the space to be able to explore this part of life without immediately having to say, oh, he's holding hands with a boy, he must be gay. Mm-hmm. Or she kissed a girl today, she kissed a guy tomorrow. Let kids be kids and explore who they are before they have to land on something 100% and have to label that for you and give it a definition and define themselves at 15, at 16.
We're talking about teens because that's the framework of this story, right? Like, this is all revolving around kids who are pretty much high school students. In real life, people at every age are still sorting out and figuring out their sexuality. And it happens for many different reasons. Sometimes it's something that people know and repress within themselves, maybe because of their communities from the time that they're children. Sometimes it's people that don't know and maybe didn't see any variation in like sexuality around them, didn't really understand that they could be different or that whatever they were feeling wasn't normal. And then they got older, met a bunch of other people, were exposed to many other things, and were like, oh, this fits how I feel much more than what I previously thought.
This is normal. This is fine.
all of it's normal. Nothing is abnormal. Very few things, I want to say, about being a human being on Earth are abnormal. And sexuality is not one of those things. Neither is gender identity. So I think we're in a place with this newer generation coming of age, right? So we got Gen Zs, Gen Alphas are like just starting to come of age. Things are changing a bit where gender identity is something that's becoming like more widely talked about and less pejorative, in spite of what we see at all of the levels of government in our country right now. But as I say, a lot of times, especially when talking about things like queer representation, you start seeing backlash from like more conservative groups when acceptance is growing. The backlash is almost a sign of winning. You guys feel the need to legislate on this shit because the wave is fucking coming for you and you're not winning anymore. You need to grasp your whatever power you're holding on to. And guess what, dog? It's gonna fail. Society's gonna keep moving. Gay marriage was eventually, after decades of fighting, of battling, was finally legalized all over the country.
During our coming of age.
Oh my God, I was a senior in college. Like, the people who are fighting so hard to like force kids to detransition or not be trans or not be queer or not read books about certain topics or not be open about things, all those people are fucking losing. Like, they're failing.
Yeah. As you've always heard us talk about on this podcast, queerness has existed since the beginning of humanity. And the word, what is it? What is it that they say?
Oh, and history will call them friends.
And history will call them friends. Which is actually the name of episode 5 of Heartstopper.
Segway queen.
Let's get into it. Episode titled Friends. So this episode opens with the complete friend group of 4 having a game night / sleepover at Charlie's house in his room. Tag yourself, I'm Isaac again, because they're all having a game night playing Monopoly. Isaac is sleeping next to the Monopoly board. And what's next to him? A book.
What book is it?
Pride and Prejudice.
King shit.
My guy was reading Pride and Prejudice at game night.
King shit.
As a progression of Monopoly always goes, everybody's arguing over the Monopoly board. Specifically, Tao and Charlie.
Classic.
And Isaac, quote unquote, in his sleep, knocks over the Monopoly board, finally ending this argument over this dumb game.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie's birthday's coming up, and he asks the friend group if it would be okay that he invites Nick to his birthday thing that weekend. Isaac, who's been catching the vibes between Charlie and Nick, is like, duh, I thought you would invite him anyway. Tao and Elle, however, just trade looks. Side eye. Because remember, they saw Nick agreeing to a date with Imogen in the last episode. But they decide at the moment that they're not going to say anything. Even though just seconds before, they agreed that they were going to tell him, even if it crushed him. Now, something about Tao and Elle in this episode. There was a moment during this game night when Isaac and Charlie head downstairs to make hot chocolate, leaving Elle and Tao by themselves in Charlie's room. And there was some serious flirting going on in the way young teenagers do, right? Very playful. And we even get to see a different side of Tao, much more loose and fun, right? Because I feel like every time we see Tao, he's like so
wound
intense
up
and more wound up. He's joking with Elle. He starts an interpretive dance in front of Elle. And this ends in a very flirty pillow fight. And this all happens right before our title card, quote unquote, friend. Right after this, we see Nick trying to break his date with Imogen right before school. However, he notices that Imogen is sad and she informs him that her dog died. Ooh. So what does Nick do? Says nothing. Literally. Oh, you were going to tell me something, Nick. What were you going to say? Nothing. Don't worry about it. And Imogen cheers up at the talk of their date that weekend. And Nick looks terrified. And at class later on that day, while they're sitting together, Charlie taps Nick and invites him to his birthday celebration. Charlie doesn't even get the invite out before Nick is like, yes, I'll be there.
So cute.
Big difference to when Imogen asked him out. A lot of hesitation.
Mm-hmm.
And for me in this scene, it's the little pinky. When they tap each other's hands with the little pinky. Like, come on, y'all sitting right next to each other. You don't need to tap with the little pinky. So later on the afternoon, around dismissal, where Nick is back at his picnic tables, Harry comes out of fucking nowhere and asks Nick about his date on Saturday. And he's like, date on Saturday?
Lols.
Completely forgetting that he agreed to meet Imogen. In the span of a school day, he's already forgotten he made plans to meet Imogen on Saturday.
When I was watching this initially, I thought this was going to go a very different way. I almost thought it was going to go like slapstick, Nick is trying to be on 2 dates at the same time type shit. And then like Charlie gets mad at him and Imogen gets mad at him because
that would be very sitcom-y.
Yes.
And I'm very...
Spoiler alert, I'm so happy that's not how it went because I'm like, he's too nice to completely reject Imogen. I thought he was just going to coast and go with it until she was like, Nick, what the fuck? And then he'd be like, oh, sorry. Like,
no. I think that we've come to know Nick as too respectful.
Too honest.
Yeah, I don't think that would have been Nick's play. But I think that's hilarious to think. If this was a sitcom, if this was like a Full House situation.
It would have gone that way.
It would have definitely gone that way. We're very glad that it didn't, though.
Yeah.
Right after this exchange with Nick and Harry, Tao and Charlie are walking up, and Harry's bitch ass wants to start shit. Can I just say, he is obsessed with Charlie's friend group.
Yeah.
He can't let him live.
Yeah, he's a bully. That's how bullies are. The amount of time and effort it takes to fuck with someone that much. Yeah. Bullies are obsessed with the
you
people
probably
they bully.
Wouldn't be so fucking lonely and miserable if...
Stop being a bully. That shit is deeply embarrassing. And, you know, something that we know about bullies, I think, now as adults, but also, like, with a little bit of psychology and stuff, is kind of like people who are victimized for some perceived weakness go on to victimize other people for that same perceived weakness, right? So, like, if Harry was made fun of at some point, or his parents were shitty to him, or qué sé yo, if for whatever reason Harry felt the need to make himself seem like bigger, cooler, better, and needed to put other people down to do that, and I don't like necessarily saying that like all people who are homophobes, it's because they're like secretly gay, because I don't necessarily believe that. I think some people are just fucking bigots.
They could just be assholes.
Yeah, they could just be motherfuckers. But if he ever felt insecure about his sexuality, and then there's someone who's has the audacity of knowing who they are at 15, that would be the type of person you'd pick on because you're jealous, right? Like that type of shit. So
I think that's a behavior we see from Ben.
Absolutely.
Except he's like angry.
Yeah.
Whereas with Harry, he's just an asshole and he thinks it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
So fucking Harry's bitch ass. Throw something at them. And Tao runs up to the dick nozzle.
That's staying in. That's staying in, baby.
And squares up. Yo, Tao, you know what? As annoying as Tao is sometimes,
a fucking soldier. He's ready to fight.
Nick, on the other hand, he does stand with a weak ass. Harry, don't start.
It's because he's still shaky.
He's still trying to keep it together in front of his quote unquote friends.
The lads.
But it doesn't matter because Harry still laughs and it's like, oh, Nick, what? Are you gay for them? So it doesn't matter. He could have got up aggressive or not aggressive. He was still going to get picked on by Harry. So at that point, square up too. And when Harry says this, oh, are you gay for them? He kind of like just looks at Charlie and says nothing. He feels like he can be exposed now. Charlie looks at Nick and knows like this can expose him as well. And Tao is the only one standing up to this jerk and finishes him off with classic Harry resorting to homophobia when he can't think of a good comeback.
Respect.
Tao is pissed and walks off with Charlie, who's also pissed because Tao, he feels, is now making things worse. It's not them versus us is what Charlie says. Tao is trying to protect Charlie while Charlie is trying to protect Nick and trying not to expose that they might be an item.
Yeah.
To me, Charlie probably feels that the more the Harrys and the like are antagonized, the more they'll push, possibly outing Nick the way he himself was outed before he was ready.
Something that Charlie's also afraid of is of Nick coming out for them to stop fucking with Charlie without him being comfortable enough with it yet. Because you're going to get bullied either way, I think is Charlie's perspective. So he's like, Nick is going to get shit either way. I want him to get shit as a person who is like confident in who he is and feels like he has had the time to process this rather than he's not 100% sure of who he is. He's not 100% sure even of this like kind of relationship, right? Because they haven't necessarily like DTR'd, even though they really like each other. They spend a lot of time together. And I think Charlie's trying to be kind of cognizant of that too.
No, absolutely, because that can lead somebody to retract. Now you're not being honest and truthful to yourself and who you are. So we see Nick. He's at home looking through his phone. He's looking at an Instagram post that Imogen put up of him and her. Caption,
So
this
extra
guy.
Imogen.
And mom walks in as he's sitting with this. She's like, what's going on? And he tries to talk to her in a way that teenagers do. And mom's like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, there's this girl and her dog died. She's like, okay. Do you like this girl? Like, where does this fall into the plot? No, mom, he doesn't like this girl. He likes Charlie. But that's not what he said. He just tells her he felt bad and is going to end up going on a date with this girl because he couldn't reject her while she was dealing with the grief of her dog passing away. And she very practically is like, you can't go out with somebody because you feel bad for them.
Love that. Olivia Colman, you're a queen and a wonderful mother. There, I said it.
And then she says, the right girl will come along. Just you wait. You know, and this is like one of those things that I, as a parent coming up in this day and age, always try to stay away from. Oh, is that a boy you like? Are there any girls you like in school? Are there any boys you like in school? Is there anyone you like in school? Oh, who is it? That's nice. Nick might want to share more. But as soon as she's like, you'll find the right girl, it brings this confusion and it almost makes him shut down in a way where he's like, maybe I can't talk about this yet.
It brings a new layer of doubt. Like, should I be with a girl?
Right. No, well, that's what's expected.
Yeah.
She's setting an expectation there, like unintentionally. This is what she's expecting of me. Would she be disappointed if I don't like a girl? So now it's Saturday. Charlie is at the bowling alley, standing with his big 15 badge, waiting for Nick. In my headcanon, Elle made him the badge. I think that would be a very Elle thing to do. Also, if you notice Charlie's sweater, he's wearing a knit sweater with leaves on it.
Aww.
It's very Heartstopper coded. Nick shows up. This bowling alley is all lit up in blue and pink, by the way. We have our bi bowling alley. Charlie introduces Nick to his friends. Elle was in Nick's class before she moved to Higgs, so he recognizes her. Isaac, Charlie explains, doesn't say much, but is really nice. And Tao, Charlie right away just apologizes for Tao. Just in case he's rude. I'm sorry, that's just the way he is.
It's always been one of my biggest fears that I'm a friend people apologize for. Like, I don't know that, but I'm always terrified that, like, somebody's like, oh, yeah, you're going to meet my friend Nadhya. Ugh, she means
just in case.
Well. Like, oh, that kill me.
You know what? I want my friends to know me enough to apologize for me and be like, listen, she could be a little awkward, but she's really nice.
Oh my God.
And I'm fine with that. I would rather somebody go into the interaction knowing that I'm going to overshare and I'm going to bring up a random subject and that sometimes I might disassociate in the middle of a conversation. That's
Jesus Christ.
If you know that off the bat going into a conversation with me, I feel a lot more comfortable. Anyway, so they all bowl. Nobody's a good bowler, but they're still having a great time. Nick, our sports lad, is the only one knocking down any pins. Everyone gets excited. Him and Charlie almost hug in excitement before they stop themselves, while Tao is literally just rolling his eyes the whole time. And you get all these little cuts where Nick's eyes linger on Charlie, Charlie's eyes linger on Nick. Like, they cannot be subtle. Charlie even reaches out at one point to compliment Nick's strong rugby arms. These two cannot stop flirting the whole time.
It's so extra.
They are. They are all over each other. Tao is just simmering in the background. And he decides that he can't be chill. Meanwhile, Nick is just trying to get to know Charlie's friends. Like, he's really just trying to be a nice guy. But Tao simply cannot be chill. When Charlie goes on a bathroom break, Tao follows him in to tell him he needs to stop this thing with Nick Nelson. And that Nick has a date with a girl. Charlie's like, nah, that can't be true. Because Charlie, along with all of us, first of all, know that Nick is not that type of guy. Know that Nick is going out with Charlie.
Yeah.
But he is the type of guy to not want to hurt somebody's feelings and agree to a date to not embarrass them in front of their friend. Tao is obviously offended because he saw it happen, but Charlie doesn't believe him. And I mean, Tao really is just reporting what he saw and trying to protect his friend. And we can understand that. That's a good friend. Maybe not on his birthday while he's trying to have a good time with his friends. But Tao is obviously at a point where he's like, this guy's obviously messing with you because I saw him agree to a date with a girl and here he is very obviously flirting with you. So he's lying to one of you and leading you on. That's the way Tao sees it. But Charlie knows that Tao has been biased against Nick from the jump. Mm-hmm. He's also a very jealous friend. A fact that he kind of admitted himself during this whole back and forth. But in Tao's perception, again, he thinks Nick is just messing with Charlie. And you can see the hurt and the doubt that creeps back into Charlie as he just answers with like, but he's my friend. He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't want to hurt me. He's not going to mess with me like that. He's my friend. Tao finally concedes, but not before he lays down his threat that if Nick is even slightly mean to him, he will send him a strongly worded DM.
That cracked me up.
William Gao's delivery on Tao's line is what makes you like Tao. Because he's like, if he's ever slightly mean to you, I will. And then Charlie cuts in like, yes, I get it. You're going to murder him. He's like, well, I was going to say send him a strongly worded DM, but I guess murder's fine too.
So goofy.
Said. The thing is, during this whole conversation in the bathroom, Nick has been standing right outside, hearing it all. He feels like shit because he's realizing the perception that Charlie's friends have of him. Mm-hmm. And also feeling guilty knowing that essentially this is a source of stress for Charlie. The reason he's getting this shit from his friends is because he hasn't come out yet. He feels like things would just be so much easier for Charlie if I was just able to come out. You can kind of see that machinating in his head while he's outside. And he's kind of heartbroken when he's hearing this conversation between Tao and Charlie.
And that's exactly what Charlie was afraid of Nick feeling.
Also, when Charlie says like, you know, he's my friend, and you hear the pause in Charlie's voice, he knows also that he's put Charlie in a position where he has to lie about his relationship. Mm-hmm. So when Charlie comes back out, Nick is standing outside of the door and they exchange their iconic hi. Nick grabs him and gives him a long, tight hug. And we get a Heartstopper moment where in these moments where the show kind of just takes a pause and lets you know what's going on in the character's head. These moments where we get the flurries or flowers or the little animations letting us know this is a moment where one of the characters is having an emotional realization. A moment maybe where your heart stops and you have a flutter, butterflies in your stomach. Mm-hmm. This is a Heartstopper moment. And you get this beautiful animation of the blue, yellow, and pink neon lights where you visually see the representation of like Nick and Charlie lighting up at this embrace in the middle of the arcade. Everybody that's kind of looking at their friendship from the outside has sowed it with doubt a little bit to Charlie. Mm-hmm. You can see how Nick dispels that every time, whether it's from his words, his honesty, a hug, an embrace, a show of affection. You can see how he kind of reassures Charlie every time he's feeling doubtful. They all head back to continue bowling. And this is how you know that Nick's a stand-up guy, because he goes right over and sits next to Tao, the kid who was just talking mad shit about him. I mean, and Tao tries to be cordial, but he literally cannot. He eventually just blurts out, "You're messing with him and I will not tolerate it. This is your final warning." And Nick just nods. He's just like, yeah, you're right. And tells him, you're a good friend. But like, he's not right. You know, and I don't know if Nick was just kind of giving him the space to say how you feel. Mm-hmm. Or it's like him explaining how Tao's wrong would expose him and Charlie. Mm-hmm. What did you think of that exchange?
I get it. I probably would have done something similar to Nick. I'm not going to take the time to explain this entire thing. I don't think you'd believe me if I did. I think organically this will be explained in time. And you know what? Your feelings are coming from a good place. You're trying to protect this person. Your beef is not really with me. Like, your beef is you thinking I'm going to hurt your friend. I know that I'm not going to do that. Okay, fine. Both of us are prioritizing Charlie's feelings in different ways. So, stalemate.
I guess so. Yeah, because I feel like he did let him slide. He doesn't even try to be like, no, I'm not messing with him. I care about him too.
I think he didn't want to antagonize Tao further. Tao clearly needed to say that no matter what. And so Nick was just kind of like, okay.
So later that night, though, Nick does confess about agreeing to the date with Imogen and why he did it. This is him being super open with Charlie. And I think this is when you start seeing like just how honest Nick is. You also don't expect a teenage boy of this age to just be like, hey, listen, I think I fucked up and this is why. To the person that he's trying to date, you know? And I think this is one of those reasons you love Nick as a character and you love him for Charlie. Nick promises he's going to come clean with Imogen. And Charlie did the thing when you're trying to pretend you're nonchalant and you're casual, but not casual, and says, it's not like we're officially dating or anything. And you feel for Charlie because you're seeing the remnants of that doubt he gained from that fucked up situation with Ben. Almost saying like, you don't owe anything to me. This is the bare minimum, really. This is just respect for the other person. And Nick just pauses and says, I wish I would have met you earlier. And I wish I knew then what I know now. What do you think he meant by that, Naj?
I mean, obviously Charlie and Nick like each other, but I also think that Charlie's a really good friend. Even if their relationship wasn't romantic, he would still be able to have discussions like this with him.
Yeah.
If he was like questioning his sexuality or whatever. And Charlie would still be a good person to debrief about that kind of stuff with. And so I don't think Nick is like, I wish I knew you sooner so we could have been dating earlier. No, I think he's like, talking to you and learning about you helps me learn things about myself.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think there is a bit of if he knew his sexuality sooner, or if this is a journey he felt that he went through before Charlie, that he could have maybe saved Charlie some stress. So Charlie is seeing this moment of self-doubt in Nick and interrupts it and reminds him, hey, you're not allowed to apologize. Remember, you're not allowed to say the S word and you're not allowed to be sad on my birthday. So Nick takes this opportunity to ask Charlie to open up his present, a self-customized picture frame with a picture of Charlie, Nellie, and Nick from the snow day that they enjoyed together. And tells Charlie that that was one of his favorite days ever. And then adds, I really like you.
That's so cute.
So fucking cute, god damn it. And Charlie's like, really? And Nick's like, duh. Isn't that obvious that I like you?
This just made me think about normal people when they're at university and Marianne and Connell have already been friends again for a few months. But this is like the first time they're kind of debriefing about what happened when they were at school, like in high school. And Connell says like, well, I feel like it's really obvious that I like you. And Marianne goes, who is it obvious to?
Obvious to who? Obvious where?
Oh, fuck. I love that fucking show.
That's one of those moments in fucking Normal People.
Damn.
Which we will cover one day soon. Nick is like, duh, obviously. And they get awkward and Nick asks Charlie if he likes him back because Charlie doesn't say anything. He's just like, really? And Charlie's like, duh, isn't it obvious? And they both laugh and Nick delivers one of their token lines. Why are we like this?
Aww.
Which is something that they say to each other when they're being like goofy in love. So Charlie confesses that he wants to kiss him so bad at that moment.
Aww.
And Nick, after taking a look around, where I'm like, I don't like that feeling.
Yeah.
But Nick, after taking a look around, says, okay. And they really kiss.
Yeah, they really go for it.
Once they're done with their little mini makeout sesh. Nick texts Imogen to let her know that he won't be meeting her that night. He asks if they can meet tomorrow at the park. Now, why did he wait this long to text her?
Anxiety.
I mean, because at no point are we assuming that he was like gonna hang out at Charlie's bowling thing and then meet Imogen later. But him texting her now at this moment gives that impression.
Yeah.
That he was like, maybe like, let's see how it goes at Charlie's birthday. And then depending on what time that ends, I might meet Imogen. I didn't like it. Maybe I'm too celosa, but I know I'm not. So he knew he wasn't going to go meet Imogen. He should have texted her before. And the next day, Nick meets Imogen at the park with his dog to cheer her up.
Nellie Nelson.
Nick starts to tell her that he doesn't like her like that. And then he continues to open up a bit and confess that he feels like he doesn't necessarily fit in. doesn't necessarily fit with her, doesn't necessarily fit in their friend group. And he feels like he's been doing things because everyone else is scared to change because of how those people might react.
That's a very mature observation for a 16-year-old.
Honestly. It's almost like he was holding it all in.
And she gave him an opportunity to just say anything.
She just gave him a listening ear where he's like, hey, I don't think I like you like that. She doesn't really respond. Mm-hmm. And then it's like word vomit of everything he's kind of been feeling. He feels like his real personality has been buried inside of him for a long time. Mm-hmm. It's almost like he wasn't planning on saying all of that. Mm-hmm. Once he realized he did, he apologizes. Like, I'm sorry. And she's like, no, I think I get it. You get this look on her face that tells you she can relate a little bit. Because one thing about Imogen is you always see her trying to reach out for some type of connection. Mm-hmm. You see that with Nick and like, you're like, oh, it's because she has a little bit of a crush on Nick. But you saw it too with like the girls at Higgs a little bit. And you get this one line from Imogen where she's like, you know, I'm not homophobic. I'm an ally.
Yeah.
She's just looking to be accepted, I think, and part of something. You only ever really see her hanging out with the guys at that picnic table.
Yeah.
She wants to like be accepted. You sometimes see her doing or saying things that might get her approval from whoever she's around at the time. Mm-hmm. We've seen her hanging out with Harry and Co. That's kind of her friend group. But you know that they're not nice. Mm-hmm. You get the impression, or it doesn't seem to me, that she feels like she fits in with them. Because I don't think she sees herself as that kind of person. Mm-hmm. So I do think she gets it. And so then with this exchange, you start getting building blocks for her and Nick's friendship, which starts to grow and mean more to Nick and to the viewer as you see them progress. The next day, Harry's nosy ass starts asking about their date, right? They were supposed to have this date on Saturday. And Imogen steps in and helps Nick play it off by saying that they decided to just be friends and she deserved better anyway. Ha 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 ha. And after seeing this exchange, now we stan Imogen. The show is just an amazing lesson in acceptance and allyship and friendship. That's why even as like a straight cis woman, it's healing for me. It heals a little part of you, the show, in that way.
Close on episode 5. So getting into episode 6, titled Girls. Ooh. We open on Nick and the legendary Queen of England, okay? Queen of England, also known as Olivia fucking Colman, are having a movie night and they can't decide on a movie. As they're kind of like going back and forth, Nick is kind of privately looking up LGBTQ plus movies on his phone. And the two main suggestions are Brokeback Mountain and Moonlight. Woo! Woo.
Heart wrenchers.
What a way to dive into LGBT cinema. Because
just rip your heart out.
Yeah, those movies will fucking hurt you.
I think Nick would have really appreciated a Red, White, and Royal Blue.
Oh my God. Yes, he absolutely would have.
He could have probably really related to Alex's journey and him like kind of discovering his bisexuality and falling in love with a guy. And he needed a Red, White, and Royal Blue.
We all did.
He needed Alex and Henry.
All of us do. So as he's sitting there with the Queen of England, she suggests that they could watch Mamma Mia or Pirates of the Caribbean, which most people would probably argue that they may fall into the LGBTQ category.
Okay, real quick. What was that movie you said?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
All right. I have a bone to pick. Okay.
You have qualms.
I have a qualm. Who decided that it was Pirates of the Caribbean? Because I swear, in no other application do we say Caribbean. I'm going to the Caribbean. The Dominican Republic is a Caribbean island. Who decided that it's Pirates of the Caribbean?
I genuinely think Pirates of the Caribbean does not hit. I genuinely think that. And so I think when they were like testing the fucking names and how they sounded, I think they were legit like Pirates of the Caribbean. That bitch is musical, okay? Caribbean. We gonna be in the Caribbean.
We gonna be in the Caribs.
No. That's like a way that some people pronounce it. I think that's how they may pronounce it, like in England, like on purpose.
Is it? If that's it, then that explains
I think there's a pronunciation of Caribbean instead of Caribbean, that's like relatively common. That's not how we pronounce that shit out here, us Yankees. But
listen,
it's whatever.
If that's the case, okay, then I just needed a reason. Because what is the reason? That's just what I'm asking.
The Cardi B.
Because I swear,
the reason?
There is no other time where I say it that way. And I get mad at myself. I say Pirates of the Caribbean, and then I'm like, it's the Caribbean.
Correct.
And then I'm like, I'm just letting mainstream media brainwash me and tell me how to say Caribbean. That's my bone that I had to pick.
Thank you.
Anyway, they're picking between Mamma Mia and Pirates of the Caribbean.
It's very funny. No, see? Doesn't hit. I wasn't kidding.
I'm sorry. I'm saying Caribbean correctly every time.
Does not hit.
As long as I remember to say it correctly.
It doesn't sing to me. The musicality is not there. So they decide to go with Pirates of the Caribbean. And
Caribbean.
Nick's mom is going on about how this was Nick's favorite movie when he was like much younger. And she knew it was because of how pretty Keira Knightley was. Oh, no me diga. We experience his bi panic in real time as he admires both Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom when they're both on screen. Ooh. And as we've said before and we'll say again, ¿por qué no los dos?
¿Por qué no los dos?
In the next scene, he is back on Google searching bisexual. Relatable king.
Relatable
king.
Keira Knightley, Orlando Bloom? I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie to you, dog. Given those two options, I am choosing Keira Knightley. Given the option between her and Matthew McFadden, Pride and Prejudice 2005, I'm choosing Matthew McFadden. I don't know what that makes me, and I don't need a label.
Listen, Atonement, green dress, Keira Knightley.
Wait. Shit. Atonement, first time I ever saw James McAvoy in a movie.
Oh.
That movie was
He
by
was
panic.
good in that movie.
Yeah.
He was cute in that movie.
Anyway, back at the Higgs Girls School. Tara and Darcy, or as I like to call them, Dara and Tarcy, make their relationship because I keep fucking up their names when I say them back to back. They make their relationship Instagram official with the caption, girlfriends and the lesbian pride flag, which is a very big deal. This is a big deal for any relationship. A fucking hard launch of a relationship, especially when you're like 16 or 17. Oh my God, that's so scary. So this is not only them announcing that they're dating, but it's also them announcing that they are lesbian. They get mostly very encouraging, positive comments, and Tara runs into a comment that's fucking weird because it says, quote, "You don't look like a lesbian," end quote. Ew. People always come away with this with a negative connotation because what the fuck does a lesbian look like? Like nothing.
Honestly.
People don't look like shit. Who gives a shit? No, it doesn't matter. And she continues to get messages from boys, unfortunately, that are like, "You're too pretty. What a waste." As if any part of her sexuality, romance, her romantic life is owed to them by virtue of her being a girl and them being boys.
Honestly. Women do this too. Like, oh, he's gay.
Oh no.
Gotcha.
Because it's like, would he date you, bitch? I don't think so.
You wasn't going to date Jonathan Bailey anyway. Okay? Like, he ain't looking at you, bitch. Like...
Paola, I'm not gonna lie, it's a fucking shame, and you're gonna have to just let me feel that.
A shame to who? See,
just only to me.
Just to
not to his like gorgeous partner, only to me.
Exactly.
Anyway, in the moment, Tara does the most appropriate thing, ignores the negativity, clicks off of her phone. She's pretending not to be bothered by this, but you know that she's really internalizing how this is making her feel. During band rehearsal, fellow band geek right here, a girl tells her that she's so brave for coming out. And she doesn't really know what to say to that because she's not really trying to be brave. She's just trying to be herself and have a girlfriend just like everyone else who has a little boyfriend. And nobody tells them they're brave when they start dating.
Yeah. You understand the sentiment. It's meant well, but it also puts like undue pressure on the person. Like, what do you mean brave?
Well, yeah. Now you have to be a representation of every lesbian who's ever existed. And she hears kind of around the school whispers and some of the other girls making kind of shitty off-color comments about lesbians. Tara feels that she really didn't see this side of people before they came out. And Darcy, who is deeply and incredibly unserious, asks if she wants her to throw cheese at them because it always pays to be prepared with anti-homophobia cheese. Love that for you, queen. On the other end of this, we have Elle, and her friends are able to read her right away. And she finally admits to having a big ol' crush on her best friend, Tao.
And they knew it.
They have such good
read her.
chemistry. Their vibes are so good. We cut over to Nick and Charlie, and Nick asks Charlie, how did you know you were gay? And Charlie says, it's pretty simple. It's always been boys for me. I've always kind of known that. And Nick feels like for him, it's not that simple. He doesn't really know what he is or what it means, and he's really confused by it. And I also think he begins to fall into a trap of like, if I don't have it figured out by now, I'm so old, I'm 16. If I don't have it figured out by 16, what am I doing? And that's a trap people fall into for their entire lives. If I don't have it figured out by 16, if I don't have it figured out by 25, if I don't have it figured out by 40, 50, 70, 80, what am I doing? Clearly, I don't know myself. Clearly, I have it wrong. It's a much more complex journey than that, and there's no age by which anyone needs to have anything figured out.
Some things. You should have some, like finances.
That's not what the fuck I mean, dog.
Your health.
You're annoying. Charlie.
Those things you should have figured out.
Annoying is what you are. Charlie reassures Nick that he does not have to have it figured out, as I just said, because there's no rush. Charlie suggests comforting him with a kiss, which is so funny. But unfortunately, we're kind of at this weird liminal space in their relationship where Nick is a little too anxious to be seen doing that in public, right? He's confused. He's not sure what's going on with him.
Except at the arcade.
Except in moments where Nick is overtaken with lust and he sees people approaching and backs off. No one's looking at them. Yeah. They're at a fucking park. It's just strangers. But Nick is feeling, I think, a little paranoid and very anxious. It's not necessarily that he's worried about random people seeing him. I think it's more his worry of being outed before he is ready to approach that, as we kind of mentioned earlier, with confidence rather than anxiety and fear.
Yeah. Which is, I think, what you're seeing in Tara.
Yeah.
Where Tara and Darcy approached coming out as kind of like, well, it is what it is. I want to be with you. You want to be with me. This is the next step, which is how it should be. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be this anxiety tied to this. But unfortunately, because of the society we and they live in, you can see that she wasn't prepared to receive these negative comments and this backlash. Mm-hmm. And at this point of this episode, you kind of start seeing a parallel between Nick's process and Tara's process.
Mm-hmm. I think there is a lot of parity between Nick and Tara. And it's funny because they're the ones that everybody was trying so hard to like put together. And they're both kind of like, no, for almost the same reasons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which exactly. I think is really fun. Next, we see Nick, who has gone back to the internet in search of more answers about his sexuality to help figure himself out. And he goes to YouTube and watches a vlogger speak about growing up bisexual, how he doesn't really have a gender preference, how he just likes people for who they are. And this is something that seems to settle inside of Nick. It seems to give him some comfort. It seems to resonate with him in some way. And so we see Nick the following day walk Charlie to his orchestra rehearsal and invites himself to Charlie's orchestra performance that Friday because Charlie was not intending to invite him. Charlie's just like flabbergasted that Nick gives a shit. And because band and orchestra are co-ed extracurricular endeavors, the girls from the Higgs school are also there. Nick sees Tara, they have a little talk, and Tara kind of like eye emojis Nick, and she's like, so you and Charlie are getting along pretty well.
Eye emoji, eye emoji, eye emoji.
And Nick, for the first time, shares, we're actually going out. Ooh. So sweet.
And it's a big deal. That's the first time he says it out loud to someone. But then he adds, don't tell anyone yet, though.
Yeah. And Tara's like, yeah, dog, I get it. Coming out's fucking stupid is a thing I'm learning, like, recently.
Well, not stupid, hard.
The repercussions are stupid. People's ignorance is
People
stupid.
Are stupid. Mm-hmm.
They share a little flashback to when they were 13 and I guess kissed at a party and thought they would be together forever. And it's just another thing that's kind of highlighting people they don't always become who they expect they were going to be. We all have a vision of who we are when we're kids because our perception is shaped by our parents and our families and the people that are closest to us all the time. As we meet more people and diversify our perspectives, the way we envisioned ourselves changes. It just gets further and further away from us. They've evolved completely differently. And sexuality and discovering different parts of your own sexuality is part of that evolution. Nick asks Tara about being out, but Tara gets interrupted by Darcy and a trumpet, so they agreed to get together for lunch that day. At lunch, Nick lets them know that he's not out and doesn't really know how to identify, and kind of picks their brains about their respective journeys to understanding themselves further and their sexuality. Tara tells him not to feel pressure to come out before he's ready because people will see him differently. This is something that she is learning for the first time, having actual real life experience in. And he asks her how she identifies and how she figured it out because he remembers having a really big crush on her when they were younger. She explains that kissing him at 13 was one of the experiences that made her realize that she's definitely not into boys. Yikes.
No, and I love how he kind of just accepts that. He's like, yeah, okay, well, you're welcome, I guess. Like,
I'm glad I helped you figure that out. And I think it's because he clearly identifies, oh, this wasn't about me. I didn't make her gay.
Exactly. Being somebody's like last ex before they
have an identity shift or they evolve in their sexuality.
I've seen people take that personally.
Yeah.
Like, it was me. And it's like, no, bitch, it's just you were part of this person's life. Like any other relationship, this person is just evolving differently and they're making different choices.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with you. It's got everything to do with them and their journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And they agree to get together again the following day for milkshakes before the band/orchestra concert. And you can tell he just leaves feeling lighter. He feels so much better after talking to people who understand. And they're really sweet and accommodating and welcoming. You can tell that it's kind of like the beginning of something that will be a really like tender friendship. Next, we see that Nick goes over to Charlie's house that afternoon to, quote, do homework together. Okay. Nick shares that he told Tara and Darcy about his relationship with Charlie. And this makes Charlie so happy. You can tell these are like moments for Charlie that are like restorative. He can't believe it, right? He asks Nick, did you do it because you felt pressured to? Because I'm out. That was never my intention, right? Like, I never meant to make you feel that way. Nick has to just convince him, like, no, dude, it was because I wanted to, because I wanted to talk about it, because this is coming from me. I don't feel any pressure from you. As the viewer, we haven't seen Charlie apply any pressure on Nick at all to do any declaring, any coming out, nothing. Charlie is just like, at your pace, whatever it is that you need to do. They kiss a whole bunch. As it should be. Good for you.
Do you know what I mean? Charlie is so excited. It's like it's showing Charlie this isn't a stagnant thing the way it was with Ben. Mm-hmm. He's working on it. He's reaching out. He's talking to people about them. All the intention is there and it's all good.
Sometimes you get the sense from Charlie that his relationship with Nick only exists when he and Nick are like either physically together or like in their DMs. Like, because that's how it was with Ben. There was no object permanence with his relationship with Ben. If they weren't explicitly alone together in like the dark library or in DMs, they weren't talking. They didn't know each other. Yeah. With Nick, it's never been that. Even when they were just friendly, it's like, no, I know you everywhere. Nick lets him know about their double date with Tara and Darcy. Charlie's like, I've never been on a date. And Nick's like, yeah, I guess me neither. Want to go on one?
Want to go on one?
So fucking cute.
Oh, yeah, so fucking cute.
Nick leaves and Charlie dances with excitement in the foyer of his house.
Low key, I was expecting like Tori to come out of nowhere.
Just
like,
pop up.
With her cup and her straw.
And her little blanket. Like... Charlie, Darcy, Tara, and Nick all hop on a group chat to talk about inviting Tao and Elle, which Charlie apparently like didn't know they were a thing.
No, like he gets no vibes, but in the book he knows.
It's because in the book it's like a not secret, like everyone kind of knows. So now they're going on a fucking triple date where two of the participants do not know it's a date. They don't even know it's a double date. They think it's one date and 4 people. And and Darcy says, we are such meddling gays. Next, what we see is milkshake time, baby. Tao and Elle are the first ones to arrive for milkshakes, which are from this like precious fucking food truck where they have little like picnic benches and picnic tables to like sit out. Oh, it's so colorful. Cute. They have a really like adorable and silly greeting where she pretends that she catches him on a fishing line and reels him in. We've all seen that move at a white wedding, and I love it. I love it so much.
I love it every time. I'll use it every time. It's also a cute little bit of foreshadowing, if you ask me.
Foreshadowing what, Paola? I have no idea what happens next. All around the milkshake stand, there are butterfly motifs and there's decor everywhere. And this is kind of like going with these butterfly illustrations that we've seen anytime someone is feeling, as Paola was saying, these heart-stopping feelings, the butterfly feelings, the fluttering.
But I feel that the butterflies are specific to Tao and Elle.
So throughout the gang's time at the milkshake spot, they are all trying to drop like subliminal little hints all over the place so that Tao can open up his eyes to Elle and realize that they like each other. Because it's not even like an if Tao likes her. It's almost like he's so used to liking her that he doesn't know how different it is from how he feels about
oblivious
other people.
to his own feelings for sure.
Yeah.
But at this point, Elle knows
Elle's there.
She likes Tao. She has a crush.
Yeah.
And she has already said it to her friends.
Elle gets upset with Tara and Darcy for trying to get involved, for being meddling gays. And she makes it clear that she doesn't want to mess with her and Tao's friendship. She's definitely still marinating on Tao's comments about change, how much he doesn't like change, the promise that they made to always prioritize their friendship and everything that they do.
From that time they hung out, it was just them. And he was still feeling really negative about Nick.
Yeah, and Charlie.
And Charlie hanging out with this new friend group. And he was pretty much like, Elle, please promise me our friendship's never going to change no matter what.
I need something steady. When so many things feel like they're changing, I need you to promise that it's not changing. So she's kind of like, if I bring this up, it feels like a betrayal of that promise, right? She adds, I don't want things to change. I've dealt with enough change in my life lately. And you know what, dog? Yeah. Fully fucking reasonable.
Nobody can argue with that.
Honestly, though, anybody can tell, especially their friends, I think, which is why they're so eager, that the vibe between Elle and Tao is evolving. At some point, they're not going to be able to cling to sameness. They're going to have to move with it. But for now, they can wait.
Yeah.
For now, when Nick and Charlie make their way back from getting extra milkshakes, first of all, dog, the fact that they each get a second milkshake, I'm like, I would vomit. And I'm the most insane consumer of ice cream. Anyone who knows me knows this. I will take a giant milkshake to the fucking face. I'll hate myself later. And not even for lactose intolerance reasons. Don't let Paola lie to you. But like them getting two of these milkshakes, the ones that look like loaded, where they like put candy and shit on top, I'm like, oh, I'd absolutely throw up. When they get back, they notice that the vibes between the girls are off. Elle comes right out with it, and she asks if they were in on it too, on this plot to get her and Tao together. Nick is like, we thought it would be fun to go on a triple date.
Emoji, emoji.
And Elle almost gets it because she's a girl and she's smart. Nick feels the need to explain further. Tara, Darcy, you and Tao, and she's like, oh, fuck. And she's super excited for both of them, but especially for Charlie, because she has had to hear him pine over Nick over the last 3 to 4 months.
Oh, almost 5 months.
Pining, yearning,
oh my God.
longing.
Monday through Friday, baby.
Tao is now the only person in that friend group who does not know. We can all kind of assume this is gonna fucking backfire because Isaac figured that shit out and he don't fucking care. But Charlie wants to wait to tell Tao because he feels like he needs to find the right time. And this might be because of how personally Tao takes his friends' relationships, even though he is not part of those relationships, and because of how judgmental he's been so far about Nick.
Yeah. From the jump.
Oh, for sure. I think on Charlie's behalf, if Nick is not 100% out, Tao is going to find a fault in their relationship. Like, he's not out. No one knows that you guys are publicly dating. He's just using you.
He's going to continue to pull that thread for sure.
It's going to be the man who will never leave his wife. He's never gonna leave her. You're right. I know you're right. Like, it's that, but for Nick coming out.
That's how Tao's gonna feel
exactly.
Because, well, he's going to expect the worst from Nick at every turn.
Yeah.
It's what he's done from the beginning. Oh, this guy's the worst. He's just like me because he's part of the rugby lads and part of Harry's friend group.
And Charlie probably is still feeling a lot like Tao's mad at him or disappointed in him, and that the news might make him even more disappointed or more upset. Tao clearly doesn't hide his feelings well, so Charlie's definitely running a little bit from his judgment. Although we know that Tao is a good friend, and he cares for his friends obviously very deeply, he is causing Charlie a lot of anxiety recently and kind of policing him and his relationships. And that comes from a lot of like overprotectiveness and care, but it's frustrating. Tao comes back from getting the rest of the shakes and reminds everyone they have 15 minutes before the concert starts. They all chug their milkshakes before performing
I was expecting
musical instruments, Paola.
Low key, I was expecting this to be like a cut scene to like everyone having a brain freeze.
Like, ow.
Oh no, I drank that too fast. But they don't. They literally just go for a walk. Again, they are half our age and they're fine. Things will not affect them.
To be perfectly honest though, children really are like made of rubber and like
exactly.
rubber and broken glass.
Nothing affects them.
They all walk back. As they're walking, they walk in pairs, and Tao and Elle, as usual, are giving hardcore couple vibes. They're sharing headphones.
Hardcore couple vibes.
They're tight side by side. Elle looks up at Tao and puts her arms around his waist and says, "I really love you."
Oh.
And he responds by putting his arms around her and saying, "Aw, I love you too."
And it's all very chill and platonic.
Oh my God, guys. So platonic. No relationship
It's so chill and
here.
platonic.
God. We get to the school concert and everybody has to head back for the pre-show rehearsal. Charlie still can't believe that Nick is actually there just to support him. Wow. The bar is in hell, but especially for Charlie. And Nick is just like, I just like spending time with you. Aww. They're fucking
and you
precious.
Know what this also, call back episode 1 when Tori asks Charlie, what would be your perfect guy? He's like, somebody that just likes spending time with me.
The bar is in hell.
And then he's like, but I'll probably settle for somebody tall.
Guess what? Nick's also tall.
And now you have both, baby. Look at you. Look at you.
Charlie worries that they've been hanging out a lot and people will start to speculate. He doesn't want Nick to have to deal with that. And Nick takes this opportunity to tell Charlie he's been researching about being bi. And he thinks that is what he might be. He thinks that fits with what he knows about himself. And Charlie almost seems like proud that he's come to this point in his journey of like self-discovery. You know, something that Paola and I have talked about with regard to Nick, that his character, his like character device, I guess, serves in this story is like he just is open and accepting.
Yeah.
He doesn't push back and deny his sexuality. He doesn't go, no, I can't be, but I don't want to be, but not me and boys. He's just like, oh, I guess this makes sense.
Let me look into this deeper.
I'm confused. Not I'm angry. Not I'm reluctant. It's more just like I'm confused because I thought you could like boys or you could like girls. Oh, but you can like both? Huh, interesting. And that's where Nick is at.
I feel like from Nick, like his main thing just seems to be honesty, right? He just wants to be honest and open all the time. And I think that in wanting to do that, he wants to be as informed as possible so that when it comes time to come out or talk about it with someone, he can be the most open and honest he possibly can. I feel like that's how you see his journey.
On the other end, we have Tara, who has come out and is having a hard time with shitty comments from people because some people are just assholes and can't see other people happy minding their own business while openly living their lives making different choices. Like, they just can't. They have to meddle and they have to fret. Some motherfucking girls say, don't look at her. You'll catch the lesbian disease. First of all, gross. Second of all, when you go to a gay bar, because that's where you quote unquote feel safe, I hope they fucking kick your homophobic ass out. Nothing a straight cisgendered woman loves more than encroaching on queer spaces. I'm including myself in this, okay? Than encroaching on queer spaces, being like, I just feel really safe here. Then they'll say shit like this. You'll catch the lesbian disease. Shut up. Tara runs out of True, which is where they're having the concert. Darcy finds her crying on the floor of their school's music room. So the Higgs school music room, which is across the way.
She ran clear across the park.
And as Darcy makes her way in, she accidentally bumps the door, which automatically closes and locks from the outside. Yikes. This mimics the exact same circumstances from the first time that they kissed in that same room. Tara confesses that she wasn't really prepared for this. You know, she thought it would be fine. She thought nobody would really care. And in that way, Tara and I are very similar. I constantly think people are minding their own business. And then I realize, like, in harsh moments that they're not. And it's always very confusing to me.
People are shitty.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she herself is still processing her sexuality, that she can't also handle the weight of negative comments on top of that. And Darcy, who seems generally pretty confident in her own sexual identity, confesses that not even she knows anything about anything, right? Like, she's just some girl who has feelings. Tara sadly says, I just want to live my life. And Darcy answers with, we can do that. They share a kiss and hope that it will get easier. Meanwhile, the rest of the gang, made up of Nick, Charlie, Tao, and Elle, are running through the school looking for these two. And I feel like this episode is really what solidifies the gang ship. The relationship of the kids in the gang. They find them locked up in the music room. Both of them are tearing. They get them out and run back to the concert that is about to start so that they don't get in trouble. All of them don't get in trouble for missing it. Nick helps Tara get set up to start, and she says, thanks, boy I kissed one time. You're welcome, girl I only kissed one time. A hoot and a holler.
Aww. This is kind of a little bit of a reminder that who you might have kissed at one point or another in your life does not necessarily define your sexuality for the rest of it. And I think that the emphasis on girl I kissed one time, boy I kissed one time, and like also seeing their journeys that they're going through right now carries a bit more weight.
And Nick asks if she'll be okay. She says, yeah, I'll be okay. Will you? And they will. They will be okay because they have officially built and kind of cemented their support system. Even when they don't get that support from the outside, they'll all have each other's backs. The gang, I will live and die for this gang.
They are precious.
This gang of friends.
I love them so much.
Let's add Isaac. So the 7 of them. This gang of friends, I'll go to war for you. I'll pick up my weaponry. I'll be up at dawn fighting for you, okay?
Let me know. We ride at dawn. Yes.
I love them. And
episode ends on them enjoying the concert.
Precious.
Nick, Tao, and Elle watching their friends play instruments. Probably not that well.
Oh, definitely not that well.
It's a high school.
Definitely. As a
band
former band geek, definitely not that well.
And they're just there for support. And I think that that's what you leave that episode with. I fucking love this show.
God, I love this show so much.
It's so fucking cute.
Oh, God.
It just says such a good message. Again, I will recommend this show forever. And now going into episode 7, titled Bully. Gross, ill, nobody likes that. We see Charlie getting ready to go to the movies in his bedroom, wearing the dopest red orange cable knit sweater. I call this the Harry 2.0. Checking out his curls in the mirror when Tori walks in, startles Charlie, and he asks what everyone else wonders anytime Tori comes up on the screen. How do you just come out of nowhere? And she answers, older sister magic, which I can attest to. Nadhya, do you attest?
Do I attest? Yes.
We watch, as Tori watches, Charlie pick from the most comical pile of Converse sneakers. And honestly, this was not just pile of Converse sneakers growing up. Tori asks him where he's going, and Charlie goes, Nick invited me to the cinema with his friends. And Tori is eye emoji, glad Nick is such a good friend. And Charlie's like, okay, well, actually, we're going out. And Tori called it. So Charlie tells Tori Nick and him are dating, but warns her not to tell anyone because Nick isn't out yet. Tori asks, well, do his friends know? Obviously not. She's pretty much like, yeah, his friends seem like they suck. And she seems kind of worried about this date that they're going to go on because his friends suck. But she does say, well done, because your crush on him was super embarrassing. So she lets him get ready. And as he's finishing up, he's looking in this mirror and he gets this warped memory of Ben of a time when they were in one of their hidden corners somewhere. It looked like the library in the flashback. And he was trying to kind of invite Ben over to his house. And Ben is like, but I already see you in school. And Charlie innocently goes, but since we're boyfriends now. And Ben completely freaks out on him and goes, why would you think that? Completely shattering Charlie's expectations along with his feelings in this memory. And in the flashback, it ends with the screen shattering this vision that he's having. And I thought it was pretty clever how Charlie is having this memory as he's looking at his reflection in this mirror that has like this staggered design that can depict warped or broken glass. And that's exactly how the memory ends, in that breaking of glass. We get to the movies. Charlie's dad drops him off at the movies and as always is always a little worried and asks him, if anything happens, just give me a call. And Charlie's like, it's gonna be fine. Nick's gonna be there. It's going to be fine. And like this is like the second time we hear this in this app and we're like, oh man, something's gonna happen. Charlie exits the car. Nick comes out from the mall, greets Charlie with a big hug. His dad kind of sees this in the rear view. And the boys do their customary hi, and they walk into the mall towards the movie theater. Charlie, who's a little nervous, is like, hey, are you sure your friends don't mind that I'm joining you? And Nick is like, it'll be fine. Ben and Harry aren't coming. Charlie's like, well, they all probably think I'm like a gay nerd.
I mean, Charlie, you hit the nail on the head.
And Nick is like, yeah, you kind of are.
Imagine if he was like, and?
Yeah, Charlie's just like, okay, rugby lad. I thought that was cute. So they meet up with Nick's rugby lads and find out that it does include Harry, old Sheldon, who's already talking shit and looking at him funny, and Ben, who already starts denying that he even knows Charlie at all. So off the bat, fucking Ben and Harry are there. The title card comes up, reads, Bully, with a shattering screen, just like Charlie's flashback. And we already hate this episode.
Let's go. Woo!
So at the theater, to try to distance themselves from the group, Nick suggests that they go get popcorn. Charlie says he doesn't want any. And Nick looks at him concerned and asks, Char, are you okay? Nick calls Charlie Char. And it's so fucking cute. As he's reaching out and touches his arm, we're all Charlie, who's like, hold on, did you just call me Char?
Cha.
And he even asks him to say it again, like, say it again. And Nick is embarrassed. And he's like, nope, you're done. But Nick feels responsible for Ben and Harry being there and not having known that. And he's like, look, we can go. And then he's like, no, it's going to be fine. It'll be fine. They decide to go in the theater. It's a horror movie, of course, because they're teenage boys getting together with their teenage boys and they have to watch scary stuff. A scary movie is the perfect movie to watch with a love interest for the comfort and the arm holding. This is where you know, is this person gonna look out for me or make fun of me when I'm under stress?
No, you must. No. I hate scary movies so much. You know my best movie date situation? On our third date, Ryan took me to go see the Mr. Rogers documentary. And I cried a lot at the end. And you know what? He was really nice to me after I was crying. And I was like, he's a pretty good person.
That's a good one. See? Okay, yeah. That might beat Scary Movie.
Absolutely.
With a crush. Because I think there you get to see vulnerability. You're being informed about something. I think you get to see a little bit of character there. And how somebody's going to react to something like a biopic, an emotional moment, and something to do with somebody's life. How empathetic are you? I like that. But also, the Scary Movie allows for tons of snuggling. So I kind of stand behind it for Charlie and Nick. And as they sit there next to each other with most of the rugby lads on Nick's side, behind them are also some other boys from this friend group. Right behind Nick and Charlie is Ben. Now, I missed this on the first watch.
I also did.
I did not even see Ben back there on the first watch.
I low-key missed that Ben was there. Like, I knew Harry was there because he's the one that you kind of pay attention to initially because he's the loudest one. But Ben, it was totally over my head. And then when you see Ben a little bit later on, I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Where did he come from?
And it's because he's kind of isn't as loud as Harry is, right? Like, you see Harry's immediate bullshit, right? He starts talking shit. Whereas Ben just kind of looks at them and kind of stays in the back.
Yeah.
You do overhear him talking to one of the other boys like, oh, I don't even know him like that. Talking about Charlie.
Yeah.
And that's the only time you hear Ben at all. And it's in the background. He's also easy to miss here. But it wasn't until the rewatch when I'm like, wait, hold on. So where is he? Mm-hmm. And I literally had to stop and pause because there's this point where the camera zooms out and shows everyone. I was like, oh shit, he's literally right behind them. Nick and Charlie don't know this though, because they kind of do a little hand holding right through the scary part. Nick apparently jumps very easily. Nick is me watching anything suspenseful. At this scary part, Nick jumps and goes to grab Charlie's hand. And for some reason, Charlie apologizes. He's like, I'm sorry. Almost like, I'm sorry my hand was there for your grabbing. Nick, though, at this, looks over to his right, where most of his friends are, self-conscious that maybe somebody might have seen. When he notices that they're all very into the movie, he goes in for a little pinky hook that turns into a full fingers interlaced handhold.
Lols.
On the incognito in the darkness of the movie, or so they think. After the movie ends and they're all walking out, Charlie and Nick are kind of poking fun at each other for each of them being a wimp in their respective times as they're watching this scary movie. Harry also approaches Charlie and kind of like comes up to him a little aggressively, hooks his arm over his shoulder, and it's like, quick question. What's it like being gay?
I think that was a great accent. I think you should keep doing it.
Yes, that's exactly Harry's voice. And Charlie's like, right away, he's uncomfortable. And he's just like, it's fine. I wish if this was Tao, he'd have been like, I don't know, you tell me, bitch.
Like,
low key.
Honestly,
because Harry, you are fucking obsessed with me. You tell me what it's like being gay.
And it's almost like, I think that is what Harry's ultimately looking for. Like, it's annoying that he keeps fucking with Charlie and Charlie keeps like not engaging. You're like, Charlie, you need to stick up for yourself. But what Harry wants is to go back and forth. Like, he wants an opportunity to like win. And I think Charlie's just like, yeah, I'm gay, whatever.
From what we know about Charlie's experience when he was outed at school and all the bullshit he got, he was a major player in his bullying. He's not going to get funny, silly banter. Yeah. You see him do it with Nick. They go back and forth and make fun of each other all the time. He can't do it with Harry because Harry symbolizes a very negative experience for him. And all the trauma he went through at school with being outed and being bullied for being gay. So Harry continues with his shit. He's like, you don't even sound gay. Do you like musicals? Like, because liking musicals apparently is very gay, and it goes under the,
I mean, I'm not gonna,
the questionnaire.
I'm not going to lie to you. I like where his mind went. Maybe some of the best gay people, love musicals. Like, I love musicals. Does it make me gay? I think that would be news to my husband. Like, I don't know, right? Like, what a funny fucking line of questioning.
Exactly. Anyway, Nick is pissed. Tells Harry to piss off. That was like, piss off. That
was a New York construction worker telling someone to piss off. Hey, yo, piss off.
Piss off. I'm so sorry. I can't help it. Harry continues with his dumbass questioning. Asks Charlie what kind of guys he's into. Does he like Harry Styles? What the fuck? Honestly, who doesn't like Harry Styles? All right, so fuck you, Harry.
Harry Styles is not for me, but he was like, oh, do you like Harry Styles? He's pretty sexy, right? And it's like, Harry, do we have something we need to talk about?
Right? So there's something you
help
recognize. And then he asks, do you like Nick? Oh, my God. This, freezes Nick. Charlie just right away is like, no, he's not even my type. Nick is disappointed. Again, he's put Charlie in the situation. He's got to cover up for Nick, and he feels responsible for this bullshit that Charlie's dealing with because of his friends. But Nick kind of freezes at this moment. After Charlie's like, no, Nick's not even my type, Harry just stops, keep teasing. And Nick turns to him finally and is like, what the fuck is your problem? As he's confronting Harry, Charlie's bolting for the door. Nadhya, do you have any feelings about this scene?
Yeah, I mentioned this before in our previous episode where we discussed episodes 1 through 4. This is something where Ryan and I kind of split, right? Because Ryan was kind of the opinion of it just seems like Harry's messing with him, but in a way that I'd mess with my friends, not necessarily a way that it's strictly bullying, right? Because it's not oh, hey Charlie, you dumb fucking piece of shit. It's not that. It's just what's it like being gay? Because if you literally just say it in a different tone of voice, suddenly it's not bullying. Suddenly it's a question. But it's Harry, which is what we landed on. When you and I talked about this last time, we decided it's Harry. The context is already set. Harry doesn't get to be cool and naive about being gay. He's being an asshole.
This questioning completely injected with malice and with making somebody uncomfortable and making somebody feel like shit. Nick runs out after Charlie and starts apologizing for his friend's behavior. And I don't know that we can call Harry his friend, but Harry's part of their friend group and he's very much still part of this friend group. So He's apologizing for everyone's behavior. And Charlie just keeps saying, it's fine. I'm used to it by now. Which is really fucked up.
Yeah.
And he continues to walk away. Like a fucking ghost, Ben Hope appears out of fucking thin air and goes, I saw you holding hands with him in the cinema. Are you going out with him? Talking about Nick.
Yikes.
And you're like, oh shit. Charlie denies it. And then Ben continues to push and turns to complete absolute toxic negging and tells him as if anyone would ever go out with someone as desperate as you.
What the fuck is that?
The irony of this comment coming from Ben, because what is more desperate than what Ben is actually doing in this scene? Going out of his way, beating his friend group to the exit to confront his ex, quote unquote ex, about who they may or may not be holding hands with. What is more desperate than you right now? Like,
It's
you're literally
creepy.
stalking Charlie.
It's desperate and it's creepy.
And Charlie, I'm so proud of Charlie's response here. Because after Ben says his bullshit comment, who would ever go out with someone as desperate as you? Charlie's like, you did.
Bye, bitch.
I mean, I would have loved to see him say that with a bit more bass in his voice. Right? Because the way he said it was like a little too calmao. But we know that Char isn't very confrontational. And that's fine. Ben keeps nagging because he's a piece of shit.
He is.
He doubles down and just says anything that he thinks would make Charlie feel like absolute shit. Ben wants Charlie to hate himself the way Ben, hates himself.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Charlie's dad has witnessed this entire interaction with Ben, but doesn't seem to have heard anything. He just sees that there's like a conflict as he pulls up to pick up Charlie. And he doesn't really press Charlie too much on what just happened. Charlie just says, I don't want to talk about it. It's fine. And his father respects it and they drive off. Cut to Nick walking back into the movies, pissed. Immediately goes up to Harry and asks, what the fuck is your problem? And Harry, bitch ass, continues with, I don't know why you keep bringing him around. He doesn't fit in with us. Quote, you can't just bring some gay boy into our group and expect us all to love him. Unquote. Fuck you.
Fucking Harry, dude.
Plus, he says this and then follows it up with, I'm not being homophobic or anything. And then he adds, he's probably used to it by now. Repeating Charlie's exact sentiment.
And of course, Nick is like, well, that's fucked up.
This pisses Nick off.
Oh, yeah.
Harry shoves him, calls Charlie the F slur. The boys are fighting. Cut to Nick in the car with his mom, Olivia Colman, and Nellie Nelson. Nick's face is all bruised up. His mom is pissed, understandably, and asks him what the heck happened. And she lets him talk. He expresses that he's so mad at himself for not realizing that all his friends fucking suck. And she says the parent thing that you're supposed to say. Fighting is not the answer. But then Nick is like, Harry used a very bad word against Charlie.
She can probably assume what that word is.
Yes. And I kind of love that she gives him that. Trusted that he knew to trust his judgment at that moment. And you can also see something click for her because she responds with, Charlie's a really special friend, isn't he? And Nick kind of ponders that for a moment and just answers with, yes, he is.
Aww.
And as a parent, you can just see the concern register in her face because now she knows that her son is probably dealing with something very hard, but also just allows him the space. She knows he's not ready to talk about it. She's not continuing to press what does special friend mean. When he's ready, he'll talk about it. And this is all Olivia Colman's acting. It was something in her tone when she delivered that line. So Charlie's a very special friend, isn't he? So back at school the next day, we see a sad Charlie. He boards the bus with Tori, wearing his headphones, silently looking out the window. He's almost like disassociating. This song, Tired, starts playing in the background throughout this sequence, and it makes the scene even sadder. The lyrics of this song say, you haven't been good for long. Is it the sound of your own thoughts that keep you up at night? Maybe it's time to say goodbye because I'm getting pretty tired. And I think it clearly portrays what's going on in Charlie's head. Off the bus, Tori and Charlie part ways as they go to their respective school with like a little smile and a nod. It's almost like Tori acknowledging to Charlie, like, I know you're going through a hard time. I wish you have a good day at school, but I know you don't want to talk about it. Siblings can communicate so much with just like a look, a smile, and a nod. And I definitely got that from Tori and Charlie in this scene as they're walking off to school. Charlie ends up walking right by Harry and the rugby lads sitting on the table outside the school where they're usually at. Charlie's minding his own business. He's going to continue moving when Harry's the one that yells out to him, "Are you looking for your boyfriend?" Charlie looks up at him, notices his lip is split. Charlie asks what happened, and Harry tells Charlie that Nick has some serious anger issues and claims that he was only joking the night before at the cinema. You knew I was only joking, right? No, fuck you. Tao sees this interaction and approaches immediately and asks, "Charlie, are you okay? Like, what's going on? Why is Harry talking to you?" Right away assumes that Harry's giving him shit and tells Harry the fuck off. Lets him know, "I know you weren't hugged much as a child. If you need human interaction that much, just tell me," or some shit like that. Tao, he's ready to fight for Charlie at all times against Harry. Charlie, again, trying to de-escalate this situation. It's just like, leave it. It's fine. Everything's fine. Second time in less than 5 minutes in the show where he's like, everything's fine. And gets Tao away from the situation. And they leave frustrated. Harry's a fucking bitch. As Charlie's entering the school, you get this really uneasy, unsteady camera work showing as Charlie's making his way into school. And you're kind of seeing it through Charlie's point of view, portraying his stress, his anxiety, walking into the school before he sees Nick. He doesn't know what he's going to see when he sees Nick. He just saw Harry's face. What happened to Nick? What does he look like?
You should have seen the other guy. The other guy's Nick.
He walks into the class. Nick is already sitting at their desk. His face kind of turned away. When Charlie sees his bruised face, asks him what happened, Nick admits he got into the fight with Harry because he started saying some fucked up shit. Mm-hmm. He's not specific about the exchange, but he just says he was saying some fucked up shit, so I had to knock him in his fucking face. Charlie's super concerned, starts to tell Nick that he didn't have to do that, and again, that he's used to it. And Nick says what we're all thinking. You shouldn't have to be. You shouldn't have to be used to this. You shouldn't have to put up with shit talking and teasing just for existing. And then Charlie apologizes as if people's actions are his own fault. He's apologizing like, I'm sorry. And Nick reminds him he's not allowed to use the S word. This is one of my favorite things to come out of this show is every time Nick reminds him, you're not allowed to use the S word. I've already used this multiple times against Nadhya. He looks at Charlie and he says he doesn't want to be friends with those people anymore. He's realized that his friends are assholes. Even the nice rugby lads just stood there and watched everything happen. And Charlie feels responsible for Nick, quote unquote, dumping his friends. But as a viewer, you know this was a long time coming. By the way they've treated Charlie and by the way that they've participated and have let the bullying go on, you knew that Nick at some point was going to have to distance himself from that group one way or the other. But by Charlie's face, you can tell that he immediately thinks he's the one responsible. And after this back and forth, Nick just lays his head on Charlie's shoulder and Charlie leans his head on his. And they just sit like this in class, not caring how anyone might interpret that.
You can tell that Nick being anything less than very obvious about how he feels for Charlie is like contrary to his nature.
Yeah.
It's almost like he knows eventually he's going to have to come out because he's just like, I'm not super interested in like continuing to hide in public.
Later on, we see Charlie walk into the empty art classroom and take a seat in the corner on the roots of the tree where he attempts to eat his lunch. He just wanted to be by himself. Doesn't want any more negative interactions. You can kind of see him isolate himself here in this moment. Later on that day, we see Elle and Tao sitting on a park bench together right after school. I love the way this scene is set up. Them sitting together on this bench, flanked by these two trees. Right out of the last scene we saw, where it's Charlie sitting at the root of the tree in the art classroom. And also this pop of color in the scene brought to you by Elle's rainbow umbrella on the bench right next to her. And they're sitting on this bench and Tao is anxiously wondering after his interaction with Charlie and Harry that morning if the reason Harry is teasing Charlie is because of him. At this point, we know that Charlie hasn't really been transparent about what happened at the movies. But regardless, Tao is realizing that he's kind of made things worse. Even Elle says, well, fighting back only made both of you more of a target. Tao is starting to see that now. And then in this scene, we find out that Harry used to also bully Elle for being trans earlier that term. And Elle says, I'm not surprised that Nick started a fight with Harry. If he was talking shit about Charlie, he was going to fight back. And at this moment is when Tao's like, wait, hold on. Is there something going on between Nick and Charlie? Bitch.
It's been so obvious, though.
Isn't it? Right? When Tao said this, I'm like, you saw them at Charlie's birthday party. Charlie's been trying to talk to you about liking him. You see they're spending more time together. What do you mean if there's something actually going on between Nick and Charlie? It's the only thing that's been going on. Anyway, Elle doesn't lie. She's like, yeah, Nick and Charlie are going out. And he asks who else knows. Well, everyone. Isaac, Tara, Darcy. And Tao feels like Shay's pretty much like, oh, so everyone knew except for me. Also, something here that I didn't like. Okay, and I understand that Elle, she doesn't want to lie to her friend, her best friend. I think Tao, of all of them, is her bestest friend. But she kind of outed Nick to Tao.
I guess.
That should have been something that came from Nick and Charlie, the way it was delivered to her from Nick and Charlie.
I think Nick was okay with their friend group knowing, but to tell Tao specifically, especially knowing, again, like we mentioned, Tao advertises that Nick is not his favorite person. I think he was leaving that to Charlie.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. Well, Tao is upset. And when he finds out how long everyone's known, since they all got together to get milkshakes, he feels stupid for not seeing it, which honestly, maybe you should feel stupid for not seeing it. And he's out. He leaves. Later on that day, in a separate cut, we see Tao. He's in his room, sulking and working on something. And he hears that Elle arrived to his house. He runs downstairs at the speed of light to see Tao holding a box of cookies. And she asks him, do you want to watch a movie? Because she knows that's the way to Tao's heart. And she clearly wants to check on him after their conversation. So something cute about this scene is that Tao's mom winks at him and tells him to leave the door open. So at this point, we can tell that mom is aware of something that probably Tao isn't even aware of himself. So we see them hanging out in Tao's room. Tao is practicing his drawing for one of his GCSEs, which seems to be like a school exit exam. But he's not an artist. So we don't know why he picked this. And so he asks Elle for help because Elle is an artist. As Elle is helping Tao with his drawing, with his shoe potato, Tao apologizes for his reaction earlier. He assumes that Charlie doesn't trust him about Nick because Tao is very... wears his emotions on his sleeve and can possibly out Nick by mistake. He continues to say that Charlie is more worried about protecting Nick than he is about confiding in Tao, and that he's choosing Nick over him and Tao's friendship. Seriously, eye roll. And says, quote, once you get into a relationship, friendships don't matter anymore. And this is something that we've seen over and over, really bothers him. To himself, he says, I don't know why I'm so afraid of being alone. And I kind of, for once, respect and accept this self-awareness coming from Tao. And Elle opens up to him a little bit and says that she's felt that way too. But she had to make the change. She made the change and everything turned out okay. She finishes up the drawing and she signs their joined drawing with Tao and Elle as Tao smiles and looks at her so tenderly. You can see the love in this boy's eyes in this scene. And I loved, one thing I did like about this episode was seeing their relationship evolve a little bit. And you're starting to see those love eyes coming from Tao. You can see that friendship evolving more and more. So then what seems to be like later on that night, we touch base with Charlie and he's in an open text chat with Nick, typing and rewriting and retyping different messages. He goes from, I need to talk to you. Then he writes, I'm sorry, it's my fault you got into a fight. Then he writes, are you sure you want us to be together? This is where his thoughts are spiraling. And he ends up settling on just asking him if he wants to meet for lunch tomorrow. Nick immediately says, of course, and asks if Charlie's okay. And something I wanted to point out here, or read into entirely too much, as I typically do, if you'll humor me, is remember how I mentioned what I think yellow can potentially signify for Charlie? We talked about yellow possibly signifying anxiety, caution, slow down. In the first episode, after Ben is an asshole to him, they really go heavy on the yellow surrounding Charlie. One of those elements being like this yellow striped bedding that he has. On the rewatch, I realized that after Kiss, when Nick and Charlie kiss at the party, and Nick, who we associate mostly with blue, it's the color we see him most in. When Nick shows up soaking wet the next day, he sits on the bed. Remember? Nadhya, you had a fit about it. During his proper gay crisis. During that scene, Charlie's bed is striped green. And same when Nick comes over after coming out to Tara. Nick comes over, they're like doing homework together. Charlie's bedding, again, is striped green. I mean, I don't have to tell you what colors make green, but if I do have to tell you, yellow, the color we associate Charlie with, and blue, the color we associate Nick with. So to me, letting us know they're in harmony, right? So when we're seeing Nick and him together in his room, 2 times that we see him up until this point, his sheets have been striped green. And then in this specific shot where Charlie is anxiously trying to text Nick, kind of maybe thinking about them breaking up, right? As we saw him delete that one message, he's wrapped up in these yellow stripes again. Like when we saw him after he decided to stop dealing with Ben. Just a little tidbit I wanted to read too much into. And then we see Charlie at school waiting to have lunch with Nick, as they agreed they were meeting that afternoon. Tao texts Charlie and asks him if they can have lunch together. And Charlie's like, I can meet you in a sec. Gotta talk to Nick first. And Tao responds with, don't bother. It's like we're not even friends anymore. Again, Charlie didn't even say no. He just said, give me a couple seconds. And now as Tao sits alone at the outside lunch table, Harry starts to fuck with him. Snatches what Tao is holding, which is the drawing that him and Elle had worked on the night before. This sends Tao over the edge. He pushes Harry down, dumps his drink on him. Now him and Harry are fighting. We cut back to Charlie and Nick in the lunchroom where Charlie is almost about to break up with Nick. A commotion starts. All the boys realize that Tao and Harry are fighting outside. Some kid announces, as they always do in movies and shows, so-and-so is fighting outside. They all run outside. Nick pulls Harry off of Tao. Tao, obviously super upset, basically in tears. So Charlie goes to check on him. And when he asks him, are you okay? He hits him with, why didn't you tell me about you and Nick? Off the bat. Charlie doesn't really answer. He's kind of like stunned. And then continues to say to Charlie, yelling at him, this is all your fault. Leave me alone, and runs away. Unfortunately, as we've all come to learn as we meet Charlie, this is exactly the opposite of what Charlie needed to hear at this moment. When he already believes that Nick's problems were his fault, Nick's problems with his friends are his fault, and now Tao's problems are his fault. And honestly, personally, I hate Tao for this moment. It's like he forgot who Charlie is. It's almost, he's completely clouded by his jealousy and his anger. He just said the worst thing he could have possibly said to Charlie at that moment. And then the episode ends just how it started, with broken glass on the screen. When he said that to him, I was like, no, he didn't. That's the worst possible thing that he could have said to Charlie at that moment.
And after that moment in episode 7, we get into, if you're binge watching it like us, episode 8 titled Boyfriend, which feels hopeful.
Which does, I feel like after you're done watching Bully and then you see this episode open on Boyfriend, you're like, oh, okay, maybe good things, maybe.
We open in this episode on Charlie in his bedroom playing his electric drum set. He's very angry and very frustrated. We see from his phone, which is open, that Tao has not responded to his message after the fight. He left our boy on scene.
I love Tao. There's many things I love Tao for. I strongly dislike him in these past couple of episodes.
Yeah, Tao's struggling. Tori comes in to check on Charlie and obviously notices his foul mood. Charlie mentions Harry fighting both Nick and Tao. Harry's busy, dude, and he's busy getting fucking walloped. So he says
Walloped.
Charlie says that both fights were his fault, him being Charlie. And Tori responds with, yeah, I'm 95% sure they were both Harry's fault and I wasn't even there.
I love Tori for that.
Dude, because it's like, bitch, the fight was your fault? You threw a fucking punch? I didn't think so. Charlie opens up to her about his situationship with Ben, and now he's comparing his current relationship with Nick to that previous situationship, and he's blaming himself for ruining Nick's life. Sometimes I feel like it would be better if I didn't exist.
This broke me. This made me so emotional. And it's like, fuck Ben too. Fuck Tao and fuck Ben.
Yeah. Tori hugs him and tells him that he's not ruining her life, and she offers to make him a pizza for dinner. Charlie declines and says that he'll eat later.
After this scene, I was such a Tori stan because I just wanted to go through the screen and hug him, and she did that.
Title card, boyfriend with waves.
So watching this title card for the first time, I thought the wave was referencing like waves of emotions. But then after knowing how this episode ends, I mean, obviously it's referencing like the ending of the episode and the season. It could mean both. Waves of emotion, right? Like the ebbs and flows of what Charlie's going through. And also them ending at the beach at the end, which was sweet.
Spoiler alert. Just kidding. That's this entire podcast. We see Charlie at school after the title card take a seat at the empty desk between Tao and Isaac. Isaac is reading a book called Gender Explorers.
Okay, Isaac.
And as you know, we were doing a little bit of research for these episodes. We read that Alice Oseman pretty much picks every single book Isaac is reading, which
I love that.
really tickles me. First of all, just getting that deep, granular detail of like what shows up on screen with relation to any character. Bravo, first of all. And second of all, the books are picked very intentionally, and he reads so fucking much. The fact that each time it's a different book, you're like, that's a full-time job.
It makes you think like, okay, each of these books that she's placing on screen means something to her in some way, or trying to tell you something about the characters or about the story. And I like you said, I love the intention behind that.
Yeah. Charlie tries to talk to Tao, mentions that Harry was suspended for fighting. And I'm just going to go ahead and say, in the US, they would have both been suspended, which is fucking stupid, because they would have been like, we can't prove who started the fight. Both of you get suspended. Dumb bitches.
Oh, yeah.
Tao doesn't respond, is just ignoring him, like a hard ignore.
Did I say fuck Tao already?
You did. Say it again, though.
Fuck Tao.
Yeah. Isaac looks over and says he doesn't want to talk to you sympathetically. And it's like, okay, girl, does he need you to be his translator? Goddamn.
Is Isaac, one, co-signing Tao's behavior? Or do you think he's like feels bad for Charlie and so he's letting Charlie know, like, before you continue to try to talk to him, he doesn't want to talk to you?
I think it's half and half. I think it's half and half allegiance. Like, Tao is very upset and got into a fight yesterday with this fucking bully, and I feel really bad. And also Charlie, like, I know you're like super excited because you have a boyfriend, but Tao's really fucking mad at you. Sorry. We learn in the background of this scene from the teacher in their class that Truum Higgs Sports Day is that week on Friday, and everyone needs to sign up for an athletic event. The fuck we don't. The fuck we don't. No. Charlie tries to appease Tao and tells him they could team up for an event like they had the previous year. I think they did like javelin or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Tao and Isaac remind Charlie.
Which is what you would do when you don't enjoy sports day. You
Well,
would do something with your friends.
Well, I would be like, is there water balloon fight with friends? Like, what?
Is that a sport?
Is there laying on couch and eating popcorn? Like, what are my options here? Tao and Isaac remind Charlie that because he's on the rugby team, he'll likely be playing the rugby match instead.
And also, I feel like this is both of them kind of took this opportunity to make Charlie feel bad about that.
I mean, yeah.
It was like the delivery and the tone, and it's like...
It's almost like they're teenagers. After this interaction, Charlie is feeling really dejected. After this class, he runs into Nick in the hallway, who is so happy to see him because Nick is a golden retriever boyfriend. And he asks if Charlie wants to get lunch. Charlie declines with no explanation and just says sorry and leaves Nick confused and disappointed in the hall.
And there's those waves again.
There are waves, again, visible in the scene painted on the back wall. We see Charlie enter the rugby coach's office and immediately say he wants to quit rugby. Remember, the rugby coach is female, which I do love. And she tries to deter him, but he says what he has to say and just leaves the room.
What I do love is how she wanted to reach out and help him right away. Where she was like, what is it? Are the other teammates being assholes? Mm-hmm. Do I need to take care of something? You know, she's checking in with him, ready to bat for him, pretty much.
After Charlie leaves, the rugby coach, who we love, who we stan, we get to see a little bit more of her in season 2. We see Tao now sitting alone at lunch when he's approached by Nick. They both thought Charlie was with the other. And Tao then announces he's pissed off with Charlie. He says he didn't want Charlie to join the rugby team because he knew the bullying would get worse, and he was right. He's tired of trying to protect Charlie when it feels like he's not being appreciated.
Appreciated for what? Por estar entremetido? Because maybe he could have listened to Charlie?
No, that's crazy.
Because he literally told him to try to keep it low-key because it was going to make things worse. And instead, he just continued to do it how he wanted to and made things worse. So
I was going to say that one of my thoughts while watching this scene is like, Tao's actually just more upset that Charlie didn't tell him about his relationship with Nick. Everything else is like smaller things he's upset about, but the main thing is the Charlie and Nick. Because now Tao doesn't just feel like a dumbass because Charlie and Nick were obvious as fuck. He now also feels left out. And this is like a non-physical realization of like his greatest fear, that his friend group is splintering apart and that he's going to be left behind.
Yeah, I understand that. But he didn't give Charlie the space to tell him about Nick.
And Nick says, literally, dude, Nick is like an adult licensed clinical social worker and a teenager wrapped into one. Because
honestly, though,
the way he just always knows what to say to people.
And the one thing I thought when this scene opens is like knowing the drama, all the bullshit, how Tao even feels about him choosing to go sit down and break bread with Tao.
Break bread. Meeting the families. Breaking bread.
Putting our cards on the table.
God. Setting aside our differences.
To sit with him and like talk it out. Mm-hmm. Respect. That's why we love Nick.
We love Nick in a way that's not creepy or illegal. And Nick says, I have to clarify. I've seen recent pictures of Kit Connor and I just have to say that. Not creepy or illegal. Nick says that Charlie really cares about Tao's opinion because he really loves him. And that's why he was so nervous to tell him.
Which is true. And by this is code for you're really hard on Charlie.
That's why he didn't want to tell you. See? Do you see a fucking pattern, Tao? You fuck.
I love how he said that, though. He was like, he just really cares about your opinion.
And Tao goes, I'll believe it when I see it. Shut the fuck up.
Did I say fucked out already?
Say it again. Say it again.
I feel bad because honestly, I do grow to really like Tao. But right now, fuck Tao.
Nick admits that Charlie is also probably avoiding Tao because he doesn't feel good about lying about their relationship, Nick and Charlie's relationship, because Nick is still in the closet.
True.
Tao says, look, I've known Charlie since we were 11, and he's always had a tendency of believing that just him existing was annoying to people. And it's like, you can read your friend that well, but you can't just like fucking be cool for like a second of your life.
Thank you. Because I feel like in that moment, the show wants to remind you, Tao's Charlie's best friend and they've known each other for a long time. When he said this, I was like, so you do know how Charlie's feelings work. So you are aware that you knew exactly how Charlie was going to feel and you know exactly how your words were going to land because you know how his mind works. Yet you still decided to approach him in that way.
I should give him a really hard time. Make him feel bad.
I
don't make the rules.
Did I say fuck Tao?
I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you. Tao tells Nick that Charlie would never force him to come out, but that being kept a secret will obviously make him feel like shit, and that they should clarify what they've got going on. So Tao's basically like, all right, I've got my own issues with like Charlie and myself as a person. Hey, Nick, fucking DTR. Make sure Charlie knows what the fuck is up.
I think Nick tries to do that.
I think so. To the viewer, you're kind of like, ew, Tao, shut up. But then it's like, you kind of realize they don't have a hard title. It feels like their relationship is less legitimate because it's not public.
Yeah. Nick
tells Tao to talk to Charlie too. And Tao, okay, honestly, like, no shade, this was really fucking funny, says, quote, no, I'm going to stay pissed off for a little longer, unquote.
Yeah, I know exactly how he feels, and I'm going to let him simmer in his self-loathing a little bit longer.
Ooh.
You know, because I'm his best friend, and I know how his brain works. That shit pissed me off again.
Yeah, it sucked. It's like, I understand. I need to be mad for a little bit longer. I need to continue to not be cool about this.
And listen, I get it. People are entitled to their feelings. He feels entitled to his feelings. I think he's wrong.
He feels entitled. Okay. He has so many feelings. Nick replies, you should try rugby. It helps release negative emotions.
That made me laugh.
Yeah. I was like, okay, girl.
Okay, shut the fuck up, guy. That was such a guy thing to say.
I just love how passive aggressive it was, because you know it was intentional. Like, you know, Nick was intentionally being like, you should try playing rugby, you fucking emotional bitch. And listen, I'm not coming down on emotions. Anybody who listens to our podcast for 15 seconds knows that we're covered in emotions, okay? I live them, breathe them, eat them. But like, Tao is doing the fucking most, and it sucks. It feels like Charlie was mainly hiding his relationship with Nick from his friends to protect Tao in a way, because Tao was the one that was going to have the strongest reaction to it.
Mm-hmm.
But Tao's the most upset. So we see Nick text Charlie asking, quote, please talk to me. Charlie types out several messages and then deletes them all, turns over in bed, and puts his phone away. Now, baby, it's time for Truum Higgs Sports Day. Sports Day. And we see Elle.
Okay, MC.
Sports Day.
The cutest sports day of all time, by the way.
We see Elle walking with Darcy and Tara. It is a beautiful day outside as well. It's like sunny. It looks like it's warm. No one's wearing a jacket anymore. I don't know how weather in England works, but this looks really nice.
It's springtime. Well, you know, it's either spring or
early summer. The Higgs girls are wearing pastel yellow with burgundy skirts and mustard yellow sweaters. Elle is wearing a bright blue headband. Elle is nervous about going back to Truum.
Blue and yellow. So sorry.
There it is. Elle is nervous about going back to Truum, but determined to do it. Tara and Darcy are being really supportive, and each of them takes one of her hands so that they can all do it together.
And they skip
together. It's really, really cute. There is a cute little montage for like a minute or two where we are just getting shots of everything in preparation for Fun Day. That is yellow. Fun Day, lol. Sports Day, tarps, yellow flags, yellow medals. So a bunch of yellow stuff. We see the students going into the gym to pick up pennies to play in. So pennies, like those little mesh tank tops that you throw over your t-shirt when you're doing like a scrimmage or something like that. And the pennies that they're playing with are red or baby blue. Interesting new color addition added right here.
Yeah, they added red in the mix, which is funny. But I feel like the whole aesthetic for Sports Day was like yellow, blue, touches of red.
Yeah, very primary colors, I guess.
It was like a little primary colorish, yeah.
Elle and Tao mingle on the field and immediately hug and sit pretty much on top of each other and chat about Elle being back at Truum because it is not just like the old times. Isaac joins them. He's excited to see them. It's very cute. And they can't find Charlie. We get an announcement. Principal Stephen Fry gives the best fucking announcements at the start of Sports Day where he's like, these are the next events. Like, he kind of starts detailing this event's happening here, this event's happening here. If you have this color penny, this color, whatever. And at the end of his announcements, as he's wrapping up, he says, go do sports. You bet, sir, as I salute with the wrong hand because I don't know how to do anything. We see Charlie enter the art room where Mr. Ajayi stops him and says there aren't any sports events in the art block. Mr. Ajayi confronts Charlie about why he's been taking his lunch in the art room, if he's avoiding people or isolating himself again as he did the year before during the worst of the bullying. He tells Charlie that he won't make him do any events, quote, because he's a nice teacher, unquote. Mr. Ajayi's the best. But that Charlie should consider actually reaching out to people instead of hiding.
Yeah. And he tells him, don't let anyone make you disappear, Charlie.
Because I guess from Mr. Jai's vantage point, he's kind of imagining Charlie's acting like this either because of bullies or because he's avoiding a boy that he likes.
He's avoiding something.
Yeah.
I think Charlie needed to hear that.
We see the rugby coach approach Tao outside and tell him that he needs to be part of an event and he's the only one who's not signed up for anything. And she signs him up for the 200-meter dash while Elle and Tao protest and say, he really can't run. He's terrible at running. And the rugby coach is like, I don't give a fuck. You should have signed up for something, you idiot. Charlie comes out of the school and catches the end of Tao and Elle's interaction with the rugby coach. Hearing that Tao is going to get signed up for the 200-meter dash, knowing that Charlie is very fast, wanting to do his friend a favor, wanting to reconcile because he's tired of them fighting, Charlie immediately goes up to Tao and goes, switch bibs with me, pennies. I'll run the race in your place.
Tao does not hesitate, by the way.
Nope, not at all. He's like, Charlie's doing me a favor. This benefits me. Great, amazing.
Bam.
I'm barely mad anymore.
We might be okay later.
God.
I hate the we could be friends again if you do something nice for me trope.
And to no one's surprise, Charlie wins the 200-meter dash, beating fuck-ass Ben Hope in the process, who's a dumb little bitch.
First of all, what are the chances that Ben Hope is also running this stupid race? Second of all, Charlie doesn't even look at him. And Ben is like, why are you obsessed with me? Shut the fuck up. Go fucking crawl in a hole, please.
Ben is so fucking annoying. Charlie literally just makes the mistake of fucking walking past him after winning the race. And Ben is like, you're so fucking obsessed with me. It's like pathetic and you're gross. Ben? Charlie tells Ben, you don't get to have an opinion about anything I do. You don't get to make me feel like crap anymore because you hate yourself. Leave me alone.
Yes.
Bravo. Claps, applause, Emmys, Oscars.
Made Ben's bitch ass cry.
Ben, we do see him in season 2 and we learn a little bit more about him in season 2, so maybe that'll provide some better context for why he acts like fucking this. And it's very easy for both Charlie and for the viewer to see a comparison, make a comparison between Ben and Nick, but the only comparison you can realistically make is person who is discovering their sexuality and doesn't want to do it in public.
Yeah.
Because everything beyond that is like night and day difference.
Yeah.
Now we see Charlie and Tao finally reconcile when they both tell each other, I'm sorry. Charlie for not confiding in Tao about his relationship with Nick, and Tao for his reaction to Charlie's relationship with Nick. It is a really sweet moment where they like hug tightly. It's clear that both of them are just like bursting to get it out. Like they just need to say it. They just want to be done with this.
It is cute. I mean, for the record, I don't think Charlie needed to apologize.
No!
I'm really glad that Tao does, though, and that he does take accountability for the rift between them.
That it's not just Charlie apologizing to placate Tao, to get back into his good graces.
Right. Tao feels equally responsible, which is taking some responsibility.
Some would say he's even more responsible.
I would say more than equal. But he apologizes, and I think that I give him credit for taking accountability and for so readily forgiving Charlie as well. Mm-hmm. Forgiving Charlie for what he thinks Charlie did. But...
Yeah, right. For what he thinks Charlie needs to be forgiven for. To which I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
They agree to have a movie night soon, and Tao and Elle decide to go into the school and tour all of their old Truum classrooms together. They are so cute, just running through this blue and yellow school holding hands, like running at like full speed, like they've never been there before. It's really funny.
Tao starts to skip because we know he's terrible at
his
running.
legs are long like a gazelle. Like
Yo, for real.
Both of them have like such long legs. And you know, we have in the background Tao and Elle are running through school. We see the other members of the gang, the friend gang, participating in their sports day events. Isaac is precious at javelin as Charlie holds his book on the sidelines. Darcy and Tara kiss. That is its own sport on sports day. We come back to Elle and Tao in the art classroom, and Tao's art is like genuinely appalling. Like, I'm sorry. You're talking to two people that went to design school that did art. God, and Tao is like a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old. God damn.
Yeah.
Elle is really good at art. So her art from the previous term and the previous year is still on the wall. Also, something that I keep forgetting is that Elle is actually a year older than the boys, than Charlie and Tao and Isaac.
Yes, that's right. I do always forget that she's older than them. And I, you know what? That speaks a lot to like how much more mature she is than them.
Yes.
She's the one that kind of keeps it together
she
and reminds them.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're being dramatic, or hey, you shouldn't do that.
And she asks Tao, is Truum awful without me? And without even thinking, he replies, everything is awful without you.
Their relationship is so sweet.
God, I'm going to start crying. And we see little illustrations come up on screen next to Elle's head. And what are they, Paola?
They're butterflies.
So fucking cute.
I'm pretty sure that butterflies is like their little flutter. Whereas with Nick and Charlie, we see leaves and maybe blossoms sometimes, like flowers.
Yeah.
With them, we see butterflies often. Speaking about the illustrations, when they're laying back on the desks, they have like on the desk, there's like little construction paper cutouts or whatever of birds like on the desk. And I thought that was such a cool way of like bringing the illustration aspect of it, it being physical. Since they're in an art class, it's these cutout of birds as opposed to having the birds flying through the screen. I thought that was really cute how they did that. I mean, you know, love birds, if you will.
Yeah, that's super duper sweet. They have a moment as they're sitting on these desks in the otherwise empty art room. It seems like they almost kind of kiss. Like they're looking at each other in that hazy, we're too close to see any details of each other's faces way. And little butterflies, like Paola said, drift by on screen. Elle actually breaks this moment by saying she's going to check out her old locker. And I think as she's leaving, they're both kind of thinking the same thing. Like, Ooh,
something changed here.
Something brewing. Back on the field, we get an announcement that the rugby team is about to play. Principal Fry over the announcements.
that's how we're calling him now. That's Principal Fry.
Principal Stephen Fry. Over the announcement says, can someone explain the rules of rugby to me, please? It doesn't seem to make any sense.
Sir, thank you for your candor because same.
Relatable king. Relatable king. Because I'm like, yo, you and I both, dog.
Same. But I think it's like
I see rugby and I'm like, kiss. Just kiss. Like, you don't have to do all this. You guys can just kiss. We see Nick on the field getting ready for the rugby match in his red penny as the captain of the Reds. That's Nick. Red head, red captain. Nick is looking for Charlie in the groups of students but can't find him. And Charlie is actually sitting in an abandoned goal from a previous game with Isaac as Isaac's reading. He goes over to the crowd because he hears the announcement for the rugby match and he wants to watch Nick play. And Nick is supposed to be good at rugby, but I'm not going to lie to you, dog. I don't know how it works. He could be terrible at it. I don't know. Nick, even though he's supposed to be the rugby king, is very, very distracted and clearly keeps looking for Charlie and finally finds him in the crowd, standing on top of one of their picnic tables to watch the match. He tosses the ball back to the rugby coach and walks off the field to his man in front of all of the students. How was this not outing them?
First, go off, King. I love it.
Drama. We love a dramatic gesture.
Second, though, low key, I'm like, just finish. Isn't all you got to
just kiss?
Is this your last move of the game? Just finish the game and then go get Charlie.
Meanwhile, I'm like, if you have to walk off the field dramatically in the middle of sports day, just kiss. Everybody can see them.
After I saw he didn't finish his play. Now he hasn't finished the play. Now I'm like, oh, I'm 100% expecting a Cinderella story moment. Like Austin Ames walks off the field right before they make their big play to go kiss Sam and it finally makes it rain and everyone cheers. I'm like, oh, he's gonna go kiss Charlie in front of the whole school.
And now they're out.
This is like the perfect true high school rom-com ending. I was a little disappointed when he just grabbed his hand and walked off.
But then I'm like, what the fuck is anybody else supposed to think?
Honestly, though, I felt like that was almost the same thing.
Like, what?
Apparently, nobody else thought anything of it. Imogen, though, she was all eye emojis.
Yeah, she was.
Like, ooh, okay.
Nick takes Charlie's hand after dramatically...
They had an opportunity, I'm just saying, and they didn't take it. But okay.
Dramatically walks off the field, takes Charlie's hand. Everybody, again, is like still looking at them. And then they decide, we'll keep watching the rugby match and give them a little privacy. What? A thing teenagers have never done. I'm so confused. And they walk inside the school. They go into one of these like abandoned hallways because everybody is outside enjoying sports day. We see a student still outside ask Mr. Ajayi if he's going to make Nick return to complete the match. And Mr. Ajayi replies, "No, I'm good.
I'm good. They look like they're good. We're going to leave them alone."
We're all good." We see everyone else smiling encouragingly, which is really precious. We see Isaac reading. And you know what I could say? I could say we see that the sky's blue. We see that water's wet.
But it's like everyone's celebrating.
And Isaac is
Ellen
reading.
Tao are happy. Isaac's reading.
Nick leads Charlie into the school where he tells him, listen to me. I don't want to break up. I know people have hurt you, but my life is a lot better because you're in it. And I'll keep telling you that until you believe me.
Aww. Cue the waterworks.
Oh, my
They're
God.
starting.
Yeah.
He tells him, "You are the most thoughtful and caring and amazing person in the whole world."
Oh, the
It's so
emotions of a
cute.
16-year-old do not take me back, but this is so sweet. Nick continues by saying, "If you want to break up, I would respect your decision, but I want to be with you." I'm weeping. I'm crying. I'm screaming. Charlie kisses him like a lot.
You know what I love here? It's like, because Nick is kind of like spiraling with everything
Yeah.
he's saying. And Charlie's like, Nick, he's trying to get his attention. Very similar to when Charlie was spiraling.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to get Charlie to listen to him. And so he just plants a good old wet one. Charlie does the same thing to him here, which I thought was a nice callback.
Pow right in the kisser. Am I right, ladies? When they break apart, he says, "We're in the corridor." Like they're in the hallway. Followed by an unspoken, "Where anyone could possibly see us." And Nick looks around and replies, "So?"
So, Nick.
And it's like really healing. Like it's just really,
It is.
really sweet.
Like, yeah, no, at this moment, you're like, you feel empowered for him. You're like, oh, I think he's ready, or they're going to make this official. Like, at any minute, actually, the first time I was watching this, I was like, oh,
It's happening.
somebody's going to see them.
Mm-hmm. Nick asks if Charlie is free on Sunday, and Charlie replies that he is. And we cut to the two of them on a train platform, and Charlie asking Nick to tell him where they're going, and Nick saying it's a surprise. So Nick is taking him on a date, baby, and that's how you know if he wanted to, he would.
Honestly, though.
Don't let these scrub-ass dudes pick you up in a broke-down-ass car and take you to Burger King, unless that's what you want to do.
Unless that is what you want.
And sometimes
Hey,
it fucking is what you want to do, and I don't judge that.
Here's a whole junior in high school taking his boyfriend on a train ride.
That's like, oh my
the
God.
place that's going to make him happy.
If he wanted to, he would. Nick is wearing a lavender sweatshirt. Charlie is wearing a pink, yellow, and purple/blue plaid flannel over a mint green t-shirt. And it feels like one of the first times we see them in not their usual colors.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm like, I feel like it's the first time you see them like outside of like
Blue,
their typical
yellow, white.
warm tones for Charlie, like that yellow or orange or neutral.
Mhm.
And Nick the same, where he's usually in like blues or so. That stuck out to me.
As they get off the train, they're walking around the town holding hands.
Also, did you notice in the train when they're sitting, like some of the signs on the train are the birds on branches, like the illustrations of the birds on branches and stuff?
That's
I
so
love the aesthetic
fucking
of this show.
cute.
It's so sweet.
And the detail, the production design, it's so fucking tight. It's so
it's
such
cute
good
and
detail.
consistent. Cute and consistent.
As they get off the train, they are walking around some other town, some different town, holding hands openly in front of everyone. Charlie hears seagulls, and Nick has brought him to a beach town.
It's so sweet. It makes Charlie so happy.
It does. It's really cute.
And by now, by this part of the scene that you're describing, I think Nick's taking his sweater off because Nick has now a yellow shirt. Charlie still has his mint bluish shirt on. It's almost like they swapped the colors. They swapped their colors this day.
Interesting. And we get the most precious montage of them having a beach day. They go to the boardwalk and they get shitty boardwalk food. I say shitty because it's amazing. It's not shitty.
We see Charlie actually eating.
Woo! That's just crazy.
Everything is to the song Moment in the Sun by Sunflower Bean, which honestly, for me, personally, wins second place for best musical moment in my heart. I love this little montage.
It's very good. They go into a photo booth and they take a bunch of pictures where they're kissing. So that's cute as fuck. They finally get off the boardwalk and go over to the beach where they're seemingly alone, which is really sick. This beach is just covered in like rocks and pebbles, like it's not sand. As they lay on the pebbles, sharing a pair of earbuds, Nick tells Charlie that he wants to come out, not fully publicly, but at least to their friends and the people in his life who matter. And he's like, you know, I want everyone to know. I'm just not like ready, right? Like I want everyone to know because I like you so much.
No, he tells him, I love liking you.
Which is so nice. And he shouts openly to the empty beach, I like Charlie Spring in a romantic way, not just in a friend way. Because that's how you want to keep your declarations. Wordy, long.
Yes.
You want them to be
make
confusing.
it clear. It was so cheesy and cute. Like his delivery made it so much more adorable.
It was very cute.
And they hug and they say, I never thought this would happen to me.
And I start crying.
I've been crying. Here ever since them just being happy and out. I was so happy for them. And then him confirming to Charlie, like, I think I'm ready to come out. It was like, wow. And like to see Charlie's face. And then he immediately goes like, not because of me. You don't feel like I'm pressuring you.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks you're pressuring
No one thinks
me.
you've ever pressured anyone to do anything.
Yes.
You little fucking angel. And Charlie asks if they're boyfriends. And Nick is like, yeah, no fucking shit, Charlie. What?
And honestly, this is where like, if I was teary-eyed, this is when the tear drops. Because to like see Charlie's face and like for him even to ask like, wait, does this mean we're boyfriends?
Mm-hmm.
And you just remember everything he went through at the beginning of the series, everything he went through at the beginning of the season, and like it hurts.
Yeah.
My little heart cracked again because it's like the doubt and hope you hear in his voice. And then they share again their cute, like, why are we like this?
We see Nick pick Charlie up. Nick is the rugby king, right? He's strong as fuck. We see him pick Charlie up and wade into the surf, into the shore, carrying Charlie, declaring, "We're boyfriends."
I'm your boyfriend. You're my boyfriend.
So cute.
It's so cheesy and so cute at the same time. You're like, I swear when you're done with this scene, your face hurts because you've been smiling for 5 whole minutes.
And maybe crying.
At the same time, happy tears.
We cut from the beach scene to Nick getting home to his pastel blue kitchen and his mom, Olivia Colman. God. Every time. Sitting at the table. You look very smiley. Have you had a good day? He sure has, Olivia Colman.
He sure has.
God. And Nick goes to have a discussion with his mom, Olivia Colman, who's wearing a sweater with yellow and lavender stripes. He asks her, so you know my friend Charlie? This really tickles me. Her first response was, if you want him to come on the holiday this year, vacation for us filthy Americans, the answer is no, because I've already booked the tickets. But she's not saying this in a mean way. This is just matter of fact. She's like, listen, dude, I'm sorry you waited so long to ask your fucking friend if he wanted to come on vacation with us, but I booked it already, goddammit. He can't. It's just so wholesome. It's so wholesome that her first thought was like, oh, Nick wants to bring his friend on vacation.
And she was like willing to, it wasn't like
automatic
she was
no.
willing to have him on vacation. It's just that she already booked it and she can't make changes to the reservation now.
Yep. And Nick is like, he chuckles a little bit. He's like, no, it's not that. Olivia Colman is like, oh, I need to pay attention to like the next thing he says, because this feels like my teenage son has sat me down to tell me something important. He begins to speak again. He tells his mom that Charlie is his boyfriend and that he still likes girls, but he likes boys too. And he and Charlie have been going out a while and he really wanted her to know.
And one thing that I love about Olivia Colman's performance here is, first is the care on her face. Second,
she's listening with like her whole body.
It's the negative surprise. It's like if somebody could perform negative surprise, she did it. And it communicates the care, concern, and like relief. Almost like finally he's ready to share this with me.
Mm-hmm. She says, my baby, and immediately gives him a hug. They are both crying. We're also crying. Anyone who's
We're
watching
all crying.
is crying. She tells him he doesn't have to say he likes girls. If he doesn't, that's not going to change, you know, whether or not she accepts him. But he says he identifies as bisexual and asks if she knows what that is.
I laughed out loud.
And she says, of course I know what that is. I wasn't born in the 18th century. She is so gracious and so kind and so like accepting during this entire scene. She thanks him for telling her, and they share this really sweet embrace. We get a super sweet but pretty short montage of Nick and Charlie moments from when they first met at the top of season 1 until now, end of season 1. And then we get a flashback to them laying on the beach together. Charlie asks Nick, in a moment that we haven't previously seen, if they're really going to tell people. And Nick takes a second and says, yes.
He's so happy, Nadja. Charlie is so happy. And he's like so blissful. You can see the line that he said before, like, I never thought this could happen to me. You can see that in his face.
Yeah.
That I can deserve like this happiness and this joy. And I'm gonna fucking cry right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he thought he was always gonna have to deal with the bullshit like Ben. He couldn't see himself in a loving, respectful relationship like he has with Nick. I'm emotional right now thinking about it. I love it so freaking much.
And they're laying on bright blue and yellow beach towels that have birds and leaves on them, respectively. And the image behind them becomes more of an illustration as we're looking at them from directly above, bird's eye view, and everything but Charlie and Nick turns into a drawing.
Yeah, an illustration. And like the aesthetic of the rest of the show.
Consistency. The song playing over this scene and the end credits goes, I Belong in Your Arms. And it's
while Nick is holding him,
which is an up-tempo indie pop song. Like in the last 5 minutes, like everything is momentarily just fucking good in this world. And I'll accept it. It's fine. Everything feels fine. Just let me live in this moment.
Yes, and I second that. This is the perfect injection of like joy that you need in just the hellscape that we're all in right now.
Yes.
With everything fucking going on.
Yes.
For the last 5 minutes of this episode, tears are streaming down your face and you have a smile from end to end the whole time. Yeah. It's so freaking sweet. It's so beautiful. I love also how we've seen this aesthetic and these colors throughout the whole series, right? Throughout all these 8 episodes, and how consistent it is throughout with what it's communicating. And now we're seeing them almost like swap their colors or intermix in a way, right? Where we associated yellow with Charlie, right? But like yellow, not in a positive yellow, more of like an anxious, cautionary yellow with Charlie. And then you have this positivity that comes into his life through Nick, who we associate so much with blue. It's the calming blue, right? And in this last scene, you see now they kind of mix and mingle, where Nick now he's got the bright yellow on, and now it feels positive. Charlie's wearing like this minty blue, and it feels calming, and it's like it gives a new definition to like the ways they've been communicating through color and throughout the whole series.
I love that. And dude, that brings us to the end of season 1 of Heartstopper.
I am eternally grateful to all of our listeners who suggested that we watch and cover Heartstoppers, because it has injected so much joy, joy and wholesomeness, I think, for us and our families. I am so happy that we watched this show. I'm so happy that we're covering it. As this recording comes out, season 3 will already have come out. We have yet to see it. My understanding is that it'll build on where season 2 left off, where it dealt with some mental health subjects that we'll be getting into in our next recap, because we're recapping season 2 after this. And we're going to keep you guys posted on that on our socials and our Patreon. So hang around. I can't wait to talk about it and then eventually cover it. Hopefully we'll be getting into covering season 3.
Yeah, I loved this season. I loved this show. I mean, yeah, my husband and I got to the end of this and we were like, okay, This is our personality now, I think. Like this, it's so good. I think both of us would have benefited from watching the show as teenagers. Like young teenagers, because, you know, we had a listener, one of our faves, one of our sisters of the pod, who was kind of like, you know, this show feels like it's a little too kid-like, because 15 and 16-year-olds, obviously, as we know, like, there's a middle place between a show like Heartstopper and a show like Euphoria for actual teenagers where they live, right? Because actual teenagers are inviting their friends over and playing Mario Kart and smoking their ass, but there are actual teenagers who are also doing drugs, or teenagers that have fucked up parents, or they curse a lot. They're having sex. They have like partners or boyfriends or girlfriends, whatever. You know, that's an aspect that we haven't really seen in Heartstopper so far. We've already heard kind of from season 3, they're aging some stuff up because the actors are aging up, the characters are aging up, and it makes the most sense as you continue with these same characters. They're gonna grow up as the show keeps going on, so I think they're handling that in like a very tactful way. I totally understand that critique though, of like the show feels like a little bit too much like it's for kids.
I think that just opens the door for a lot more viewership, and I think for a wider range of ages that can watch the show and like learn lessons, good lessons from it. Heartstopper just allows, the way it is, allows for the space for a bigger range of young teenagers to enjoy. And also, it's like, we want to see queer joy, I think.
Please.
And we love the focus on that. And sometimes we want to see stories where people are wholesome and kind, especially during times like this in our world.
I agree. You guys have already heard all my thoughts throughout, but this is such a great show. It's such a great show for people of all ages. The characters are going to start aging up. They are going to start getting into more mature stuff. I like that we weren't rushed into that. I like that as soon as the boys started dating, they weren't just like trying to fuck all the time or whatever. Like, I love that there's an awareness and like a pace that they're maintaining and that they still kind of prioritize just being teenagers. I love this show. I'm fucking hype for season 3 whenever it is I finally get to fucking watch it.
And it's almost like the show progresses with those topics as they age.
Yes.
Which I think feels so appropriate. All right, sister. We can keep talking about this forever.
We sure could. Let's try.
As you have heard. So, in an effort to wrap this up, tell me, book or show?
I haven't 100% finished all the Heartstopper books. I did read the first 2 that seem to make up this season.
I'm dropping the rest off at your house soon.
Thank you. I'm going to say show. It's so good. It's all the same people too. Like, I'm not shading Alice Oseman because she's also so deeply involved in the making of this show. So I think that's like a quadruple kudos to Alice Oseman.
The books and the show are so close in portrayal. Like, I think
it's like you can't separate them.
You can't. The show is great because of the book.
Yeah.
So I think I might say book just because of that, because it informs everything. Every single thing in the show is informed by the book, and they've done this is a great adaptation.
It's so good.
Done a great job. I mean, I'm sure it helps that it's a graphic novel, therefore like you have the scenes already queued up for you. It's almost like you're following a storyboard. The storyboard is already there for you. So I'm going to say, I say both, but we have both because of the book. So that's my answer. You guys already know our significant others have watched this with us and enjoy it with us equally as we do. So I'm going to skip that one and ask you, on a scale from 1 to ardently admire and love, I think we know the answer to this one too. How do you feel about this show?
Bitch, this is like a 9 out of 10. It's an ardently admire. It's a love.
I'm gonna go say same on that.
Yeah.
Ardently admire. You must know it was all for you. And that's that, sisters. Thank you for joining us for this recap of the second half of Heartstoppers. Join us again to get our recap on the first half of season 2 of Heartstoppers as we build up to cover season 3, which is out now.
God.
Go check it out. And keep tuning in to get these lovely detailed recaps.
All right, guys, you know the drill. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, please leave a review anywhere you get your podcast. This also includes Patreon, baby. We are on Patreon. If you would like to become patrons of the Sis Flicks podcast, please, we implore you. No, we don't. But we would love it if you joined us over on Patreon for some bonus content like hit clips, which are now moving exclusively to Patreon or to subscribers. Any future bonus content like a wink wink book club that we might be doing, any visuals, early access to merch will all be available to you if you come and join us at the party on Patreon. So access through the link in the show notes on this episode, and we'd love to see you there. Come and find us on Instagram at sisflixpodcast. Shoot us an email at sisflixpodcast@gmail.com and let us know what you think. If you have suggestions or a movie or book request for us to cover in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.